Everything was fine with our system till the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Yes.
Break it up. Hey, break it up. Break it up.
All right.
Well, it's what I heard.
It was difficult not to say all right.
No, I know. I looked at that and I was thinking, are we going to fall into another one entirely?
I screw it up in the entrance or in the exit.
You know,
all right.
that is one movie I would love to see.
Damn shame it's not a sci-fi, but anyway.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode. And I hope your Halloween went well because it went so well for us that we needed to do an episode on this movie.
Stay away from
Who
that.
Who are you going to call?
Sci-Fi remnant.
And
I don't know where that melody comes from, but
yeah, we have no idea.
So no copyright infringement.
Welcome everybody. I am Dr. Egon Splank. No, I mean Robert.
I am Ghostbusters.
and I'm Ray Stantz for this episode at the very least.
You can tell we're having lots of fun.
and I'm gonna say the second quote for the next part of our podcast. You know which one is, Robert? Ray, what have you been doing?
What have I been doing?
Or watching?
Well, I was watching Ghostbusters. Besides that. Oh dear. I've been meaning to watch the rest of Ahsoka. I just haven't got to it yet. And apparently she's giving me the side eye, wanting me to get on with it, so I gotta watch that sometime soon.
The problem is if you care.
She could force me.
Yeah.
The force can choke you. The force can make you feel pain. The force cannot affect your brain, bro.
And Ro's been watching Star Trek. So what have you been watching, Gia?
Okay, did Robert move to Australia? I feel like a minority here now.
The last episode I watched, it was Deep Space Nine. We are in episode season 4, episode 5. Really interesting episode called Rejoined. This is where Lenara Khan, the new host of the wife of Dak's former host, Teria's, comes to the station, and it gets really confusing. Really, really interesting. So, and of course,
But honestly, have you seen anything ever so simple in outer space?
Well, I just like the topic. How, it's what's inside that matters, and that really brings it home. So I don't know. Just
so when you get a gift and it's shit, complain, because it's what's inside what matters.
It's kind of like multiple personality disorder on steroids.
Yeah. You get to see a person letting all out of what everybody else keeps quiet.
Okay.
I'll just trust that that's correct and move on, because I have no point of reference.
So
what else
have you watched, Gio, that is sci-fi related?
Sci-fi related, I started I was feeling like kind of like melancholy about SAO, but I didn't want to restart the whole thing. And I found Infinite Dendrogram, and it was pretty cool, man. It's beautifully made. You will like it, man. Like, actually, I think it's softer in the plot than SAO. Like, it's so far, I haven't seen people like locked up in, like, oh, you cannot get out of here. It's pretty cool.
Gio, have you seen the SAO Progressive movie, the first one?
I'm not sure. That's the problem. That's why I wanted to restart.
It's on Crunchyroll. In fact, I watched that this week, and it's sci-fi. There we go. I found something.
I know, and I was going to watch it, but then I was like, I don't even remember. Like, I left it up. Like, they were in a military base in the ocean. I'd rather just watch a whole thing from the beginning to kind of recap my brain. But then I was like, oh, that's too much.
Nice.
That
Probably yeah,
the
sci-fi related, but this guy gave it to me, and
it's
I
my fault.
watched it in 2 days.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
Sword Art Online progressive Aria of a Starry Night. It's called. That's the first progressive movie. There's another one coming out shortly, and
Mhm.
basically it covers from before the SAO lockdown starts to the end of defeating the first boss of the first level. But it's more from oh, no, what's her name? The female protagonist's perspective.
Alice,
Um, no, Alice is like
Asuna,
third season.
Asuna, Asuna.
Asuna, yeah. It's more from Asuna's perspective, and it introduces another character who's a friend of hers who got her into it. And it's kind of weird how they shoehorned another character in there, but it had some very interesting character interactions and went into Asuna's background, and she's gone through some stuff.
I know what she's doing, the writer in there. Robert could agree with me and support what I'm saying, but she's doing what Stephanie Meyer did in Breaking Down, and then on the other book where she put Edward's side, and then the other books are about Bella's narrative. And I think that after she did that, I've seen many other writers kind of do that. They add like another chapter backtracking, but from the perspective of another character, which can be interesting for sure.
Oh, I'm reading this series of light novels at the moment called Days with My Stepsister, and it basically goes through a day from
Dum,
from
dum, dum.
from the guy's point of view, and then goes through the same day, sort of from the girl's point of view, but
Okay.
sort of skipping the conversational parts because you've already heard them. So it's
Okay.
sort of like more of a summary from her perspective, but it also has what she's thinking at the
But
time.
it sounds confusing because then it's like you're skipping the conversation. If you don't remember the conversation, what happens?
You're in trouble. Go back and read it again.
Oh, bro. That's like having to read a book and then reading it again so you can keep on reading it.
Yep, pretty much. But
Oh,
no, it's interesting.
don't
Just a
write books
different
like
different
that,
way of
Ray.
doing it.
Don't write books like that, Ray. I won't thank you for it.
Speaking of writing books, it's National Novel Writing Month at the moment, which is why I'm getting stuck into the book that I am writing and trying to
Yes.
get you guys to read if you ever get the opportunity. Hint, hint, poke, poke.
He's saying it like we never tried to do it, and we actually were pushing him to get more because we were waiting
Yeah, and
for
then
it.
I did, and you haven't read it.
Yeah, it hasn't been even a month, man. Give it a break.
Okay, so should we actually go into our next segment?
Yeah, it feels more like Robert goes like this and just push me over the shoulder, like go.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. What,
It's called herding the cats.
If
one
we
of the
ever get to dramatize how Robert moves from one segment to shout outs, we're gonna put me like nonchalantly, like not expecting anything, and Robert just goes behind me and goes like bah and pushes me. And I almost go like face over the floor.
well, I'm kind of hoping that one of these episodes I can surprise you, right? So I
Yeah, you can crazy
can
the
dream.
crazy man.
I can dream. So here we goes. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-Fi.
Well, guys, this is Sci-Fi. I actually looked for a couple of things. I was looking for like art ideas for drawing because I've been like booming a lot on filling up all my notebooks with things. And sci-fi is one of the main things that I love. Most of the IPs that I like are sci-fi related. And I use what? The hashtag this is sci-fi. So we just want to remember you guys, it's something that we started and it just keeps on going. Hashtags is something universal to all social media. Use it always that you're looking something that you love with sci-fi, that things that you love. So you accompany like if you like Evangelion, the makers, you put Evangelion hashtag, and you put this is sci-fi. I promise you, man, it's gonna be like having what? And if you don't know why they are laughing, I mean, it sounds like people are laughing at my expense right now. Uh, you can actually go to our YouTube 1 month after you listen to this, and you can see. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. If I do, what's the point, right? great. It's gonna be.
I got to give Robert a hard time about that at least once every episode.
Yeah, it's true.
I
It's
just
true.
lose value.
Don't worry, Ray. I'm gonna come up in the next month with a T-shirt.
Nice.
We will. Uh, so, like I was saying, everybody, let's keep it going. Let's keep this train going as strong as it keeps on gaining more traction and more public. It helps eliminate or break the segregations of gatekeeping or silos in between fandomships. Because sometimes, I mean, like, how many people do you guys know, without naming any, like that will fight over? Oh no, Star Trek. Oh no, Star Wars. They're different. They're unique. They're beautiful.
Oh,
And
Babylon.
why can't you just love them both?
Yeah.
Babylon is Babylon is like a whole other animal. It's like Babylon is like Babylon 5 is a chimera, right? Right.
Something like that.
So yeah, man. Do you guys have any experience or interactions this week with This Is Sci-Fi?
Well, I've been posting some of the interesting scientific articles that I find on the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag, and it's kind of like to me, it's almost the bridge where I find something kind of like we do in the show. Basically, I find
Mm-hmm.
science that you could see how that could relate to a specific thing within a sci-fi IP.
That's
And,
messed up because I always burn my bridges.
so it's really really cool. And so I
Yeah.
usually post those whenever I do read them. I post them. Also, lately I have been posting some, um, sci-fi movie related articles in there. So just to start engaging in conversation. So cool. Anything else? I don't know if Ray, if you had any interaction. I mean, we have been um, busy lately, but
I was reading some of those articles you were posting. It's quite interesting.
yeah, cool. So should we go to our next segment?
Yeah.
Shout out.
There you go. You couldn't push me over, man. I'm still in balance. Well, for this shout out, I'm gonna first do our Discord server followers that have been keeping the party lead. We got Starjammer117. Thanks, dude. We always have fun, even with this. It's like Gandalf say, we find beauty and greatness in the simplest things of everyday living. You know, that hello, how you doing? When you tell us what you're doing or what you're watching, it's fun to know because we get to know something new that maybe I have interest on, or maybe besides having like a something common that we like. You say a name of a show or something, and then I'll go curious because I'm like that, bro. And I'll just type it, and then I'll next thing I know, I watch the whole thing. I've been watching, binge watch it. So it's always fun to have people that you have common interest with, and just sharing jokes and everything. It keeps the boat rolling. And the next one is
Oh,
Chris. Yeah.
before you move on, I'd just like to add in the Discord, he added under the manga to read section
Mm-hmm.
an entry. So I don't
Oh.
if you guys don't know, if you guys are not in Discord, you guys should join up. But we do have like forums where we have a book list, we have manga to read, we have movies, we have TV shows, and we usually kind of add stuff that we like to it. The list is growing. So it's kind of like an extension to the This Is Sci-Fi, where you go into those lists and you can pick. The idea is to put a link to where you find that. If it's something that you need to purchase, like a book, it would be a link to where you can purchase it. If it's streaming, it would be a link to where it's streaming. But the idea is to just go into there. You can click on the link, enjoy the content, and then go back below that entry, and we can have a conversation about that one thing. So it's really cool.
You said that Star Jammer added it because I'm looking at the anime list, like the forum, but I don't see his name on the as a poster.
So if you look at manga to read,
Ah, manga to read. I was looking at anime. My bad.
manga to
Boy.
read, the
Oh,
first
I see.
there is his.
I see you, boy. Oh, let's see. Interesting. That it looks like a classic too.
Yeah, it looks like a classic. Yes.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Interesting.
Nice, man. Well, he seems like a man of taste and culture, man. I like it. I love it. And the next one actually, which I love their podcast, the Sci-Fi Wise guys. I think Chris,
Yes.
you go and check them out. You can find them on Twitch, the Sci-Fi Wise guy. They stream weekly over there, and they are a fun watch. I love the dynamic and the chemistry between them. I mean, if you want to watch a dysfunctional, perfect marriage that hates each other but gotta be together, they are great.
Yeah, kind of like me and Gio, right?
No, because at the end of the day, we sometimes we agree sometimes, but they even if they agree, they disagree just for the sake of we cannot agree, and they do it in a such a passive and like way. But it's fun. It's fun as hell, man.
Love it.
And now for this episode, special shout out and Instagram, we're gonna actually do a shout out for Southwest Florida Ghost Corp, who we have the pleasure and honor to meet in Southwest Florida SpaceCon 2023. Which, if you haven't watched, you should actually pause and watch. It's a short episode. It's about 20 something 30 minutes,
Yeah, it's
right,
really,
Robert?
it's actually one of the shortest. Well, for season 2, one of the shortest episodes that we have released.
And I mean, we don't know. It's in a special episode. It's not like we were there talking about one thing. We were rolling all over the place, but it was so fun, you know. And I mean, I wish we could have bring Ray. Next time, I'm probably gonna tell his wife to kick him hard and put him on a FedEx bag.
One
I'll-
big ass FedEx.
I'll
bag,
track
that's
him.
all I
I'll
can
track him.
say.
I'll track him all the way here.
I hope I can hold my breath for 27 hours.
Then you'll be no. Then you're gonna come to the next. We're gonna go to an otaku fest or something, and you're gonna cosplay. I got reincarnated as a vending machine because you're gonna be all boxed up.
Or I could just go to sleep behind a vending machine. You couldn't tell the difference.
But yeah, man, Southwest Florida Ghost Corp. It was so cool to get to meet them. All the cool collectibles. Actually, I have my car key, which I hoped I had a rich hands. Yeah. Look at
Oh
this.
boy.
I got my keychain over there in their booth with Ghostbusters theme.
Nice.
We're playing like a mini game with hoops. It was fun to just show off everybody my dexterity without even trying, you know, and then see how everybody was like just getting themselves to miss. But it was fun as hell.
You didn't roll many ones, man.
No, man, mines are like 5 and longer.
No, I'm talking about the dexterity roll.
No, I always roll bad in that, but somehow I'm still in the game. Look, man, if in that part of the game when I actually went naked and did the helicopter to distract the goblins, I survived that. Yeah, nothing can kill me.
So if you guys are wondering what he's talking about, it's our D&D game.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was that wild. And if you're interested, you can join a Discord and join the
We
game.
have seats. We have seats, but they're limited. So
They're
join
limited.
us, man.
Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Hmm. And I mean, it's fun as hell that I actually miss getting back to it. I was hoping that I was gonna make it for this Saturday. So next Saturday, guys, craziness is coming.
Oh, you want me? You want me? Yeah, and the laughter is for the YouTube viewers. So
the way that the Restream organizes the codes for Discord when we show it basically hides Geo almost entirely. So he's got to climb over the top of it.
That reminds me, where were we?
Hey, get it out of
Exactly.
remnant.
Exactly.
Get it out
No.
of remnant. We should
You
do
are
it out of
so
remnant.
lost. You're so lost that we already move on from there. We're wearing half of my shout out to Southwest Florida Ghost Corp. So go and give them a follow. They're awesome. They're always doing cosplays. They show up in all the events that they can. They're awesome couple. Actually, they have even the card of the Ghostbusters. Like they painted the card like that. They have it in the show. And I mean, it's a great group of people to meet in and vendors if you want to get like nice souvenirs of Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah.
And that's all for today's shout outs.
I want to add something to that. We were on another podcast.
Hey, you rarely ever get to play the header. Why don't you play the header? Have you got it there?
Mm,
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 Out of remnant?
mm.
yeah.
You haven't got it there. You're not organized.
No, I don't have. But listen, I can do this. I could definitely do this.
Okay.
The Alita Army News.
I thought we were doing the out of remnant.
I'm too sexy for it.
No,
No, the out of remnant.
He kept it.
you screwed that. Pooh.
No.
no.
I think that the outer rim was what next, Robert?
No, we stopped doing the Outer Remnant. We're doing the Alita Army News.
Yeah, but we have an outer remnant this week because we did that Jaws thing, remember?
Yeah, we were. Gio, can you give us some details about where we were? We were covering a very iconic film that deals with water and fear.
Water and fear.
Drop
And-
the toaster in the dishwasher.
Okay, now-
Well, the reason why I'm pointing out to Gio is because typically this is not the kind of film that I like.
Jaws.
We were talking about Jaws. Granted, it's an iconic film. I did watch it. I did enjoy it. And we were
Because Robert is picky, so he likes some horror movies, but not all of them.
So yeah, we were invited to this really good podcast to talk about this film. And even Ray made it.
Yeah,
I was fashionably late though.
it was meant to be Ray. And actually, that's I love this guy, Cam Sully. Pause right now. Go and look for Jack Top Reviews. He's awesome. Just write it down all together. You can find the link in his bio. Please give him a follow. He always have great things to say about fantastic movies that make classics most of the time, like the one that we did, Jaws, right?
Yes.
Which was, I mean, everybody has such like hilarious notes and like there's so many quotes about this movie too, and so many facts that I didn't know, I mean, this movie came out like way after I was born, before I was born.
Yeah.
It's semantics, Ray. Don't get like that.
Yeah, no, but yeah, we had a great conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. I was glad that we were invited to be on the show.
Oh yeah.
What
And I was
the
glad that we
name-
all make it together there. We
What
cover
was the name of the
actually
animatronic shark? It was Bruce, wasn't it?
Bruce.
Baby Shark. Do.
It was Bruce.
Yeah.
You want to see a picture of Bruce?
Oh, no.
Nice. Bruce kept on breaking.
Yeah, Bruce got rusty in the seawater.
Poor
Saltwater.
thing. It looks so miserable, bro. So miserable that thing looks, and it's not even alive. I actually took a picture with the one that is made out of fiberglass that is hanging upside down in Universal. And I put my head like under them. I was like, ah.
Awesome. So yeah, I had to add it to this segment here. But Ray, do we have any news from the Alita Army News?
You're not gonna say Dolly Dolly.
We
I
do
did.
have some news.
You missed it.
You have to do it every single time, so you cannot hypnotize people. So if you don't even say it anymore, people are like, something's wrong.
No, but I did say it. You missed it.
You did.
You did.
Robert,
He's-
in my mind, it doesn't exist. Alita sound with Robert voice. It has to be like with Robert voice.
Yeah,
but
but
he said it. He said it earlier.
I did with a voice.
Okay.
Yeah, he did the whole thing.
News.
There. That's
See,
the only
I
way
have
that
to
I
do
can.
it a
That's
second
the only way that I can hear it, man. If we're in person, you better put the procaster, put the headphones on me before you say it.
Oh, nice.
Well, regardless where this podcast gets originally released in audio format, we just had Halloween and we came into the month of November, so it was new month, new chapter of the manga, which was Angel of Redemption Collapse Cycle 4 Reality Crumbles. I don't know how many people are following along with what I've been talking about in these segments, but the previous episode, and of course, if you're movie only and you don't want to know what we're going through in the manga, which will probably be in the next movie, you can go la 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 for about a minute and a half, and then you'll be all good. So fingers in ears, la la la. Otherwise, listen on. In this chapter of the manga, I'll just preempt and give context and say that bad things happen. Not only did Nova resurrect Zapan, but the Berserker body managed to capture his brain and fuse it into itself. And so we have a revenge machine called Zerkapan looking to kill Alita. So basically he tra-la-las around the scrapyard, which is Iron City in the movie, and trashes the place, kills lots of people, looking for Alita because he wants to kill her.
You say he tra la la?
Tra-la-la, yeah.
Oh, you touched my tra la la. I did ding dong.
I know he couldn't help it.
Yeah,
I know. I
of
set
course
him
not.
up. I set him up.
You know me. You know me.
I handballed and he caught it and he ran with it.
Yep.
So yeah, this chapter was pretty bad. One of my favorite side characters, Gonzu, which is replaced with Nurse Gearhead in the movie. He dies horribly. And
Yay, one less to draw.
it's a bit of a mess. So things are heading downhill very quickly in the manga at this point, coming up to the big battle between Alita and Zerkapan.
You think
So
that
we're looking forward to that.
you think that big battle is gonna mean that there's gonna be more Alita or it's gonna change? How do you feel about that, Ray?
I
Anticipation's
reckon
killing you.
I reckon we should hear a green light announcement before the end of the year if the writers start writing again. I think
Okay.
it'll happen.
So
That's my feeling.
do you think that he's gonna continue? In your opinion?
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
I think so.
At this
Uh,
point, I
and
think that he's gonna write until he dies because he knows you guys, the fans, are gonna kill him.
Pretty
One
much.
more.
And of course, if we don't get a sequel, they're in all sorts of trouble. Or no chocolate. This is the other option for this one. And of course,
Oh my lord.
the pouty face. You just can't go past.
Mhm.
Awesome.
So you don't know what we're laughing about. You need to check out the video version of this podcast when it drops a month after it drops in audio. So jump over to our YouTube channel, hit like and subscribe so you find out when the next one drops, and check out these awesome visuals, which we can't really do on a podcast.
Yeah, get out under the rug and come and join us.
Yeah, come see Captain Chaos.
What's he doing? He's hiding in the back.
I was reaching out for something. I'm just being sneak, but
Sneaky.
I'm the kind of guy that hangs with people that are like, he's hiding. If I ever had to do something to save my life without telling you, I'd rather just disappear.
What the hell is he doing?
Oh, that was epic.
It's a podcast. You got to describe a few things.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put my crotch in the camera because I'm picking up something behind the camera. Come on, man. I'm not putting only Gian's content in here, man.
So basically, we
I'm a
get to
content
see
creator.
it, but the viewers don't. Right? Okay.
I'm a content creator.
Well-
Okay, I cannot
well,
damage my other business.
You just want us to advertise your own EGNs, don't you?
Well, when I have the chance, I plug it in, but it's not like I need followers, you know. The
How
fame is-
many
it-
How many
fame
cameras have
ain't
you
easy.
broken?
Cameras? What do you think I do with the cameras, bro? I record with them. I don't know how you use cameras in Australia, bro. Damn,
You
mate.
don't want to know how we use
Oh,
cameras.
no.
That's
Hoping
not a
no.
camera. This is a camera.
Oh God.
And this is a big one. It's a Camaroo. No, it's a kangaroo.
Camaroo.
I need to breathe.
And guys, do we have a plot?
Oh, we do have a plot. I got the plot
Oh.
right here.
This is gonna be
Let's have some-
metaphysical noodles.
Metaphysical. Jesus. At least it's not space noodles.
Yeah,
Although, you know, Sigourney Weaver does appear in both.
Yeah.
always miss it, right?
This is our second Sigourney Weaver movie this season. So,
Yeah.
and I got to say, rewatching this last night, she was looking pretty fine. I got to say, she was at her peak, which was pleasant to see. Anyway, the plot. After Columbia University parapsychology professors Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spengler experienced their first encounter with a ghost at the New York Public Library, the university dean dismisses their credibility of their paranormal-focused research and fires them. As you do. The trio responds by establishing Ghostbusters, a paranormal investigation and elimination service operating out of a disused firehouse. They develop high-tech, nuclear-powered equipment to capture and contain ghosts, although business is initially slow. Following a paranormal encounter in her apartment, cellist Dana Barrett visits the Ghostbusters. She recounts witnessing a demonic dog-like creature in her refrigerator uttering the word Zool. You don't normally see that sort of behavior in a major appliance. Ray and Egon research Zool and details of Dana's building, while Peter inspects her apartment and unsuccessfully attempts to seduce her, because that's what he does.
What's gonna happen eventually?
The Ghostbusters are hired to remove a gluttonous ghost, Slimer, from the Sedgwick Hotel. Having failed to properly test their equipment, Egon warns the group that crossing the energy streams of their proton packs will cause a catastrophic explosion. They capture the total protonic reversal. There was a little bit more than an explosion. But anyway, they capture the ghost and deposit it in the ecto-containment unit under the firehouse. Supernatural activity rapidly increases across the city and the Ghostbusters become famous. They hire a fourth member, Winston Zeddemore, to cope with the growing demand. Suspicious of the Ghostbusters, Environmental Protection Agency Inspector Walter Peck asked to evaluate their equipment, but Peter rebuffs him. Egon warns that the containment unit is nearing capacity and the supernatural energy is surging across the city. Peter meets with Dana and informs her Zool was a demigod worshipped by the servant to Gozer the Gozerian, a shape-shifting god of destruction. Upon returning home, she is possessed by Zool, a similar entity possessing her neighbor, Louis Tully. Peter arrives and finds the possessed Dana Zool claiming to be the gatekeeper. Louis is brought to Egon by police officers and claims he is Vince Clortho, the keymaster. The Ghostbusters agree to keep the pair separated. Peck returns with law enforcement and city workers to have the Ghostbusters arrested and the containment unit deactivated, causing an explosion that releases the captured ghosts. Louis/Vince escapes in the confusion and makes his way to the apartment building to join Dana/Zool. In jail, Ray and Egon reveal that Ivo Shandor, leader of the Gozer worshipping cult in the early 20th century, designed Dana's building to function as an antenna to attract and concentrate spiritual energy and summon Gozer and bring about the apocalypse. Faced with supernatural chaos across the city, the Ghostbusters convince the mayor to release them. The Ghostbusters travel to the hidden temple located at the top of the building, Spook Central, as they called it. as Dana/Zool and Lewis/Vince open the gate between dimensions and transform into demonic dogs. And how did they open that gate? Anybody? 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 They had sex on the altar. Gozer appears as a woman and attacks the Ghostbusters, then disappears when they attempt to retaliate. Her disembodied voice demands the Ghostbusters choose the form of the Destructor. Ray inadvertently recalls his beloved corporate mascot from his childhood, and Gozer reappears as a gigantic Stay Puft Marshmallow Man that begins destroying the city. Against his earlier advice, Egon instructs the team to cross the proton energy streams at the dimensional gate.
So
The result,
let me get this straight. You can actually capture that with Epsom salt, as you said.
no, not Epsom salts.
Okay.
No, not Epsom salts. They're there for relaxing in the bath. Something completely different.
It sounded like Epsom salt what you mentioned.
Did it?
Oh God!
Oops. Where were the Epsom salts?
Chaos is causing chaos. That's all.
Now I'm confused. Anyway, the resulting explosion destroys Gozer's avatar, banishing it back to its dimension and closes the gateway. The Ghostbusters rescue Dana and Lewis from the wreckage and are welcomed on the street as heroes. Roll credits with the ghost flying up. Because all the ghosts escaped again. So it sounds like they were going to be busy catching them all again.
Who you gonna go?
Ghostbusters.
This is this is such an iconic film, as many of the ones we have done in the past. And we already had this conversation. It's like we typically pick quote, and we already know when we're going to have an issue. as iconic as this one, it had so many quotable moments. We had a hard time.
And this is how it went today. We said okay, let's pick one, and then I will say one, and like, okay, let's do that, and then another one's like, in this one, let's do that, and then another one will say another quote, and we're like, okay, everybody, that one. We couldn't decide because all of them are so good, man.
Hey, I narrowed it down to 5 quotes. There were like 17 when I started.
Honestly, Robert knows that I'm a person that creates no expectations on nobody, and you have break the schematics, my friend. When he told me that you put 5 quotes, I was like, he's not going hard.
No, I'd already whittled them down. They were the best 5.
Yeah, he told me how many quotes, and he told me he put 5 quotes already. Like 5 quotes, man. I've seen him putting like 12 when he really likes this shit. Like I see him going nuts and going downtown. He's going easy.
Can't really help it. This is such an iconic film.
It's great, man.
I love it. I think this movie is almost as quotable, if not more quotable, than The Fifth Element. And that's saying something.
Yes.
Nah, not sure. Yeah, you think? They're different though.
Yeah, true. But it's the quality of the screenwriting.
I think that I mean, it has action too, but it's yeah. Let me leave it at that. I'll say something and just ruin it. But even though they're different, they're great pieces of film in their own accord. That's true.
Me and G were actually talking about something interesting when we're watching this film, and it's very unique, the fact that this film, the ending credit song is as iconic as the film itself. The Ghostbusters song by I always forget his complete name. Parker.
Ray Parker Jr.
Exactly.
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker.
How do you feel about that, Ray? Even not being related to the film itself, the actual song, the music video, they all have. Although we definitely know that it's definitely from the film. But is as iconic as the film itself.
Oh, for sure.
I actually, the comment that I made to Robert to point that out was that I think that from the Ghostbusters up to Men in Black or like Wild Wild West, a soundtrack from a movie that became just as good by itself as the movie hadn't happened, right? You got Ghostbusters, and then like movies and stuff came out, but it was like what 2 or 3 years before you got like Millennium, the album of Will Smith, where you have Men in Black song, Wild Wild West, which was a great comedy too, which we covered, right?
No, we have to.
Need to put it on the list.
That movie is like I mean I know that you're crazy about it, and I am crazy about it, Robert. Wild
Yeah.
Wild West.
There's a mix review when I talk to people about that film. I am on the side of I liked it.
Of course, it's not meant to be a realistic movie. You know, it's steampunk, and it's a comedy, and it's tastefully done. Very MTV done too, right? I think you can see the stamp of MTV, uh, weight of work, and image, and how Wild Wild West was made with, right?
That's a very interesting point. I don't think I really. I can see where you're coming from on that comment. I never really thought about it that way, but it does make sense. Going back to what we were saying, how do you feel about that comment, Ray, about the Ghostbusters song being basically almost as its own thing?
Oh, it was. I mean, it was one of the things that got me into popular music back in the early mid '80s. Like I really wasn't into popular. Well, I had my reasons. My sister was an absolute ABBA nut, and I heard so much ABBA in the late '70s that my brain melted out my ears, and I just didn't want to know about popular music until this song came along.
You can dance.
Look, it got so bad that the earworms from the ABBA music got into my head that in the 90s, when I was living in Canberra, a friend of mine who I went to university with in Canberra, he'd moved back to Sydney, and he came back down for a role-playing convention, and he picked me up in his car because I didn't have a car at the time. And we were driving to the convention, and he put a tape in his cassette deck. Yeah, back then when we had tapes and cassette decks in cars. And he said, I bet you can't guess what song this is within 10 seconds. And it went boom, boom. And I went, Dancing Queen ABBA. And he's like, what? You got that on 2 notes? And because he'd never listened to ABBA. I'd never heard him listen to ABBA before. He was trying to trick me. And I got the song from 2 notes.
Yeah, that's what I say. When you told me that you got your friend's car, the first thing that I translated was he became a prisoner of a car.
Yeah, the first thing that came to my head is how many hours?
Well, I mean, my sister for like 5 or 6 years was just playing ABBA nonstop, and it's like I was marinated in the shit.
Everybody had at some point in their lives some kind of like pop superstar fever. I mean, my times, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, those were mine, bro. My cousins and I, like, we were doing the choreography.
But you chose that. I didn't choose ABBA. ABBA was forced on me.
It was chosen for you.
Yeah, it was.
Choose. And I mean, even if you choose not to, it's a choice too. Hey, you chose Pink Floyd. You like Pink Floyd, bro?
Pink Floyd's all right.
So I'll throw you a break then. That's fine.
I'm going to ask the first question, but I think I'm going to mix it up a little. I am going to start with our very own Chaos Bringer, Zool himself.
Zool himself.
Captain.
Hey, Zool, how you doing?
And then I think I'm gonna let Ray go last. I have a feeling that although I love this film a lot,
that's gonna be a good night.
He is a bigger fan than I am for some reason. I don't know. I got the feeling.
Science.
I just don't know. So the question that we always ask in this show is, how old were you when you first watched this film? And what was the first impression you took from that very first time you watched this film?
Remind me on what year this movie came out, because I watched
84.
84? Yeah. I watched it probably like 96, 97.
I think 84, man?
No, bro.
Was he born?
In 84, I was still crawling out of the hair of the scrotum.
He was,
Hey,
I asked for.
he was but a twinkle in his
yeah,
father's eye.
not even, man. I was like that itch that he doesn't know why the fuck he still has it.
So you were pre-twinkle, were you?
Yeah. You know what I say about bat weeds? They're hard to kill. You can never kill it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys remembered I told you that like in DR, like we don't get to see like I didn't go to the movies for watching like these big movies, you know. I went in 1995 probably for the first time or so to watch Aladdin in the theaters. But like these big movies, like they will pass it 1 or 2 years after going to the movies in TV shows on Sundays where they will give you like three good movies, and that's how I catch it. I mean, I loved it. And on top of that, like Dominican Republic, you had to wait a couple of years at least for the translation. Nowadays, it's a way more faster for you to get dubbed or subtitles, you know. But back then, it was different, man. You know, like the movies with the films and everything, digital was just happening in '90s, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I loved it because it's what I was telling you earlier, Robert. It's like the next level of Scooby Doo. You know, like it's serious, it gets ominous, it's suspenseful, but they keep it always lighthearted. You know, comedy, fun, chaotic.
All right. So she's a dog.
Oh,
Exactly. And I mean, and I tell you, not like many other great movies with their dialogues and everything. Translation changes a lot of things. There's so many movies that once I watch it with Robert in English, I enjoy them so much. Same way. For example, to give you an example, Ice Age in Spanish. If you speak Spanish, you'll say nah, never. Even Robert, when you watch it the Trek in Spanish, it was like, oh my god, this is the thing, and it's hilarious in English. You know, so
yeah.
the translations can make a whole different message too for it. But I don't even remember the Spanish one to be honest with you, man. And I love this movie. This movie is very good, man. This is something like you like comedy, it's a must. You like sci-fi, it's a must for sure.
You like ghosts? It's a must.
It's a must.
Who like ghosts?
You like slimy? As it goes.
Slimy's pretty cool.
I'm not gonna elaborate on that. You
So,
thank me.
so I guess it's my turn.
Nope. Try again.
Okay.
That way.
Try again.
What do you mean?
Now you're just trying to confuse me, and it's not hard.
Okay. So one of the things that I am gonna go in about this one is the fact that um I did not get to see this in the theaters, and that is a shame.
It is.
Shame. Because the experience would have been incredible. I saw this film in release, and I want to say 86. In 1986 is when I got to see this. I didn't know what to expect.
Okay. It was something new too. Like nothing like that came out before, right?
Well, the thing is that it's Ghostbusters, right? There, I'm trying to set my expectations. I'm not the type of person that likes, horror or paranormal movies and stuff like that. However, watching the trailer, because it was all over. You had the trailer. You have the music videos. There are two different music videos.
Mhm.
One is with clips from the film, and the other one is just the one that I showed you, Gio, with the girl walking into the home.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I fell in love with the girl, and when I watched the music video for the first time, but watching the trailers and seeing my favorite characters from the 80s, and then watching the tone of the trailer and watching the tone of the music videos, I decided, you know what, this could not be as I expected it to be. It cannot be as I expected it to be. So I actually watched this film, and I was glad and sad at the same time that I didn't get to watch it on the movie theaters. Um, at that, I think I was 16, 17 when I watched this. Um, it was a lot of fun. It touches on all my itches when it comes to sci-fi.
Mm.
And I just liked how the whole thing to me was something unique at that time when I watched it. It was a fresh
Next time I wanna get a reaction out of you, man. I wanna come with a Ghostbusters DVD and just rub it on your back.
but it was definitely not what I was imagining in my head.
I bet. I bet.
And
That's
I
one
was
of the main characteristics of Ghostbusters, if you think about it.
Mhm.
They
It-
kind of surprise everybody. Like they make you think it's one thing, and when you finish, you're like, "Wow, this is something else." One of
especially
a kind.
especially when you start a film like
Hmm.
the very beginning, you it's they make you feel like this is that kind of film, and then they move, this is when the librarian was walking through the books, and you see the books behind her moving, and then all of a sudden this ghostly figure showed up that we never see on camera. And then it's very easy to see, okay, yeah, to think this is that kind of film, and then it just changes tone right
Yep.
away. So I really really enjoyed this film. I couldn't tell you how many times I watched it through and through. All I can tell you is, in eventual we'll get to this, is my experience over the years, like any of these classic films, has changed. And there's things that I gained the more that I watch this as I progress in my timeline. Um, so my first experience, it was really fun, and it touched on um, all my check boxes when it comes to sci-fi. Um, but I think because I watched this when I was 16 or 17, I didn't have major questions like I would have. I'm not sure if I can say it was because I was young, because there has been movies that I watched, as you guys, if you watch this show, can tell by previous IPs that we have covered, that I do get those sci-fi questions. But this one, I think, is mostly because it was just fun, and my brain just relaxed and enjoyed. The questions came later, but my first experience was just a complete joy, and I think in part this is what makes this film to me now it's such a nostalgic film to be able to watch. So
Aww.
that is my answer.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah, Robert always goes
my
big on the big screen. What about you, Ray? Will you be
oh,
like,
I saw it.
have to
I
watch
saw
on
it on
big
the big screen. I was there. I was a
Fuck
couple
you
of days
guys.
late though, and that was telling. So
So jealous.
I think the song came out in
Mhm.
Australia before the movie did, because back in the 80s we used to get releases later than the US. So the movie come out in the US, do its thing, and then it'd be released in Australia some months later. They didn't have full international releases back then, and it was annoying because you'd often get spoiled by international news services.
How long did it take to get the Australian subtitles?
We speak it a Queen's English, so we didn't need those.
So it took longer because you had to dub it.
Oh my god, so funny.
Crikey, mate!
I had to, it. But hey,
Nah.
if any of our listeners wonder what Ray has a mastery at speaking, is French, guys. And if you don't know, go and check our Trip to the Moon episode where he actually reads French. That dude, man, he
Oh,
was
for fuck's
the
sake! Don't
son
do
of
this to me.
King Louis the 16th in Versailles, dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
Carry
you
on,
guys
carry on, carry on.
need to go.
I had to.
Yeah,
I had to.
Chaos is doing it again. He's on point this episode.
He's on the roll.
Anyway, so putting my train back on the rails because he's completely derailed my train of thought. So yeah, the song came out in Australia before the movie did, and as I alluded to earlier, the song had a pretty profound effect on me. I remember it was September of '84. We had I was on holidays, and I spent most of my holidays listening to that song on repeat on a cassette Walkman because I was just so hooked on it. I had a best of '84 cassette, and the first song was Ghostbusters, and the second song was I Wear My Sunglasses at Night. I remember that because you listen to the first one, you start listening to the second one, and Sunglasses at Night had alternating stereo beats, so it went do 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 do, and
So
with
glad
headphones on, you're sort of going because the sound's bouncing around between the stereo channels. But yeah, I listened to that song practically 2 weeks straight. I was so hooked on it, and so I was really excited to see the movie. And of course, the movie came out close to Christmas because Christmas was the big box office season, and still is in Australia.
Yeah.
So people go on holidays and have time to go to the movies, and they check out the latest blockbusters. So a friend of mine went opening night, and I was going 2 days later. I can't remember why, but he got in early, got his tickets early, so he made it into the opening night screening, and I had to wait a couple of days to get to see it. And I remember going up to him the day I was going to see the movie. He said, "Oh, I'm going to go see Ghostbusters today." And he said, "Oh yeah, I saw it a couple of days ago." I said, "Oh, how was it?" And then he went and spoilt the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man for me. And you remember I mentioned that I had The Matrix spoilt for me, right? Sitting in the cinema with the movie about to start. Yeah, this was pretty much the same sin.
Wow.
But this was years earlier. So yeah, I was rather disappointed with him. I don't think he ever did it again because how disappointed I was with him. I don't remember punching him out, but I think I got a little bit physical. But oh man, it's just like, why would you do that? And he goes like, oh yeah, I see your point. Oh crap. But it was too late. I'd had it spoiled for me. But still, I got to see it on the big screen not long after opening night, and it was epic. The big screen, the big music, the sound effects, the visuals. Nothing like that had been produced before. It was an intersection of so many different things, and it had been produced so well that it became an instant icon.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, if you like comedies, it had lots of comedy. It was really tightly written. You can see video essays about how tightly written the dialogue was in this movie compared to the reboot in 2016, and how a lot of commentators on YouTube consider the original Ghostbusters to be a far better movie in many ways than the reboot was, basically because it was so well written, so tight, and just landed so much better. And that's why it's so quotable, because it's just so well written. But it had the awesome soundtrack. It had special effects. It had, ghosts, which, movies with ghosts in them were generally considered horrors. It was very rare to get a horror comedy like this one, but this is a sci-fi horror comedy. So
and keep in mind that special effects was like something new that was arising in the 90s.
Well,
So-
they had ILM as the only company, but
Yeah.
ILM was tied up with another film, so they couldn't hire ILM.
No, and just I'm just saying that like to give the perspective, like this was not something that was as abundant as anybody can do CGI in their house now.
Mm.
They just have to know very well what they're doing. But before it was, you're talking about a studio, big spaces, a huge amount of assets that you could use for, and not everybody was doing it. This was something new emerging. The film industry was evolving, and I think that Ghostbuster is part of that evolution with all those things that Ray was mentioning too.
Well, this movie does use practical effects, probably because they just didn't have access to really good CGI at the time. But it also uses CGI for ghost effects, and it's really sort of at the time. I mean, today you consider them a bit passé, but at the time it was cutting edge and it was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
But this movie is an intersection of sci-fi, horror, and comedy. And you would think that those three things being mashed together would just be a complete mess. But no. Ivan Reitman and now one of the actors was actually, two of the actors were writers for it. I just want to get it right. So it was
Dan Aykroyd?
It was Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, I believe, were the main writers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they did a fantastic job of making it all work, basically. and work it did. And as Gio was saying, it was kept light enough that the comedy elements weren't overshadowed by the horror elements and the sci-fi elements. But I was really impressed by this movie, and I went on to watch the sequel and then play the video games when they came out. I remember playing on the Commodore 64 a Ghostbusters game where, you drove around the city dodging ghosts, and you got to Spook Central, and then you had to fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and climb up the building and stop Gozer and all this sort of stuff. So there was games, there was comic books, which I read a lot of. There was sequels. I had a Ghostbusters t-shirt, I remember, when I was a kid. So yeah, I mean, this IP had a big impact on my life. I really appreciate it even to this day. I mean, some things that you really like mainlined when you were a kid now sort of, make you cringe because you got too into it. But I've never felt that with Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters has always felt to me like it had a sort of a reverence. It was written with care and intent, and I appreciate that. They did a great job in both of the movies, and I feel it stands a test of time. And it really still, I mean, just watching it again last night, I really feel that it still is great entertainment, and I really enjoyed it.
Nice. So, have you heard? And I'm gonna post this question out there for the two of you. Between the 1984 Ghostbusters film and the 1975 live action
Big gap.
the Ghostbusters.
1975.
Hold on a second. Let me see. Filmation was making a cartoon revamp, Ghostbusters, of their 1975 live action series, the Ghostbusters. I don't know if you heard this, but due to a disagreement with Columbia over animation rights, they added the real Ghostbusters to the animation.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember that.
Actually, I think that there's a collectible DVD that I saw somewhere online that show, and I think that was you that told me about it, Robert. That the first movie did, it was like a little cloud, a red cloud. That's it.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so Universal Studios had a show in the 70s called The Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
And so they couldn't use Ghostbusters as a single word legally for the name of the for the animation they were coming up with. They considered Ghost Stoppers, Ghost Breakers, and Ghost Smashers. but in the end, they went with the real Ghostbusters.
It's interesting because it makes you feel like I don't know. For some reason, I feel it was like out of spite.
Mhm.
They're called the real Ghostbusters,
The real.
and then Ghostbusters is split.
When you have to go the real on somebody, it's like, and you're telling everybody he's trash. He's not the real.
Generally.
But then it comes for D Chaos, because when you see D Chaos, you're talking about our very own Captain Chaos.
I am
But
kidding.
in the comics, there was a rival organization that were challenging the Ghostbusters for, ghost removal services called the Ghost Smashers.
Oh God.
So there was a rivalry between the two. Although the Ghostbusters was smarter than the Ghost Smashers, and the Ghost Smashers ended up in an alternate reality. And only the Ghostbusters could work out how to get back because they had Ray.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
That's right. you gotta have a Ray around, or it just doesn't work.
Yeah. It's
I
a
don't
point.
know.
It's a point fixated in time. You can't change it.
Yeah, you can't change that. So, I just had to bring that up because I was kind of curious if you guys heard about that. I found that very curious. But I want to bring another topic to this, to the show.
Who we gonna call?
Go, yeah, the real Ghostbusters.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for that. I would say that it hurt me, but you're incapable.
I got to see. There is a video out there, especially if you buy the DVD, and I think nowadays if you buy the Apple TV, the Apple version of this film, I think it goes through. This sounds true for any version that you buy, where you have the extras of the film.
Yeah.
I got to see, this was a while back, right? I have it now because I bought it for Apple and it's the same thing. So that's why I'm assuming it's the same thing for when you buy this film. But within the extras, there is a they show you videos on how the film ended up from the illustrations. I forgot their name, but there's illustrations that you do to show basically for camera work and stuff, so you know where the actors need to be, where the scene has to be. So
They're
it was,
like that. They're like infographics.
no, they did, someone actually draws them, and this is pretty much how the director shows the camera where where they need to go.
Gotcha,
I
gotcha.
I
It
only
almost
see,
looks like a football field, like a organization of a team, but it's for like a larger group. And basically, they tell them at a larger scale how they're gonna move so everything goes harmoniously without.
no, it's not, it doesn't look nothing like that.
Okay.
Basically what it looks more like a comic book.
Oh,
Have
I
the
got
of
you
the
now.
actors, and you have the expressions, and you have the background
Mm-hmm.
scene, and there is obviously black and white, so it looks exactly like a comic book. Some of them even have the bubbles just like a comic book, but the whole idea for that, and Ray, I don't know if you can look it up quickly for me. I forgot the name of those things. They have an actual name, I just can't remember, but basically they're created to show, for the director to show the cameraman and every, the editors and everybody working on the film,
Storyboards.
storyboards, thank you, how the film should look by the end of the editing process, and camera work and all that. I think this is very, very important for the camera people, because it shows what angle.
Shot composition.
Exactly. But it's also good for the actors because it shows what type of expression they need to, and what type, in which scene, and where they need to be at. Obviously, the director overrides that, because when they're shooting, they're looking through the camera, and then they can see, okay, it didn't work. Let's try it this way. But going back to what I was saying, on the features list of that, when you buy the film, there is a video that shows you a side-by-side comparison between the film and the storyboards. And it's interesting to see because it kind of makes sense what I've always heard about this film. The film was almost, let me say this, almost none of the scenes were filmed as scripted. Most had at least one ad lib. And most Bill Murray's lines are ad lib. It looked like he just didn't, he tossed the script and just.
There was a script.
And there's a script. Where is it?
Right.
So it's interesting to see because, people can say this, oh, yeah, that's true. But, maybe they're just saying that. But when you watch that side by side comparison, you can actually see because they were not exactly where they should be in the storyboard. And they were not doing exactly like I remember one scene, especially when they're after Slimy, which, by the way, Slimy was not named in this film. I think it was named in the second film.
Yeah.
But they were in a hotel room, and on the storyboard, you see Ray and Bankman on one side of the aisle and looking at Slimy. Yet in the film, it was just Ray, and he was calling Bankman on the radio that he's seen Slimy. So I just find, I don't know if I just want to mention this. I don't know if you guys heard that, if you had any experience of that, but I find that really interesting. And this is the reason why I said when the film is meant to be, when you have the chemistry, I mean, this film can never be duplicated because even though they have the script, and it does help that the actors were some of the, were they're part of the writing process of the film anyway. So that maybe that helped in the fact that, they were able to ad-lib the way that they did. But I think this would have been, in my opinion, a complete different film if it was, following the script. And might not be or might not have the success that this film had today. So I'm not sure if you heard about this, or if you what experience. What is your thought on that?
Well, it also helps that Aykroyd, Ramis, and I think Bill Murray on occasion were all on Saturday Night Live ad-libbing together. Yes. So they were just continuing on in the vein in which they were, well versed. And I mean, the delivery of lines in this movie is just so on point. It just makes my head spin. When you see ad-libbing these days, it's so fluffy and it takes them forever to get around to what they want to say. But if you can't tell they're ad-libbing in this movie, it's just amazing how tight the lines are. What is Chaos doing? He's so utterly chaotic.
Robert knows what's happening to my headphones right now, and it's a pain in the neck.
Should it be a pain in the ears?
So much that when it happened to me and I will be recording at his studio, like I would just take care of it. I wouldn't give it to him, and he will appreciate it.
So yeah, for all of you out there, this is that are not watching YouTube. This is a reason why you should. You're missing on Chaos doing Chaos things.
Chaos. This is just unfair.
This is we call this Sunday for
Chaos is rewarding, bro. This is unfair. This shouldn't have happened. Oh, come on, get in.
I should note that the budget of this movie was 25 to 30 million, which is pretty low considering what they sort of spend on movies these days. Mm-hmm. And the box office was pushing 300 million. So, that's a 10 times return.
What was the budget?
25 to 30.
I actually watched one of the interviews about I forgot his name now. When they were asking for how much is the film going to cost, and I heard in that interview, and forgive me, I forgot who was asking for it, but when they did the calculations, they said this is going to cost 15 million, right? And the guys had no clue. So he said, you know what, I'm just going to double that. And he asked for 30, and they said, okay, fine. And then they give it to him. And it's like, that's not what happens today.
No,
So, you
no.
know, and I don't know, maybe because of the cast,
Yeah.
you know, because it has a stellar cast.
Mm.
So maybe that played a part as to, you know, why they said, you know, we'll just give you double, and that's how it ended up being.
I mean, you look at the cast: Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis. It's just
Oh.
like,
Now, do you think that from before they got together, who was casting thought that we're gonna get a team like that?
Well, it was. You know what? I would have to say yes, and let me explain. And Ray, let me know what your thoughts are. This was a collaboration, uh, mainly between Harold and Dan, right? As far as the writing is concerned.
yeah,
And you know, they're all Saturday Night Live buddies. You know, Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver, I think, would be the only um, lucky star there. They were. I'm trying to look for it. They gave it to someone else, and I forgot who that person was. And that person rejected the role. And when they show it to Sigourney, she said, "Oh, I can do a lot with this," and she accepted. And I think that was the only lucky thing that happened in this film, where she got added to that after the fact, because the other ones, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, but I think they're all, since they knew each other, they had this project, and they wanted to collaborate with, you know. What do you think about that?
The big guy.
yeah. I mean, yeah, the core group were in on it from the beginning, but yeah,
Cold.
adding. Sorry,
They call them the cold group.
the cold group.
Yeah, the court. Yeah, yeah.
That's why you told me that they put it like like in a side job for this movie, right, Robert?
The what?
You're talking about the lady that you were showing me that was in like an orange jumpsuit in the movie.
In
No.
orange? No, I was talking about Sigourney Weaver, which is Dana, the one
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. She was, I think, dressed up in an orange jumpsuit or something. The part that you're telling me, like, she's a very good actress. You mentioned when we were watching it, and then you said that, but they got her into the movie later on, so they didn't give her more of a main
No,
character or something like that.
let me just make sure that we're talking about the right person. I'm talking about the main star of the movie Alien,
Ah, no, she was.
Sigourney Weaver.
Okay.
That's the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We got lucky because that part they offer it to someone else, and that person rejected it. And when she looked at the script, she'd like, "Oh yeah, I can do a lot with that." So she took it.
Well, actually, they had, for all people auditioning for the Dana Barrett role, Daryl Hannah, Denise Crosby, Julia Roberts, and Kelly LeBrock. So that's a pretty big list of honeys from the 80s, I got to say.
Requirements: limp, use a cane, and be old.
Oh, I remember. I remember now who you're talking about. Captain Chaos.
Yeah.
Her name is Annie Potts.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And to me, and Ray, let me know what your perspective is. To me, she became very famous and typecast for doing that boring secretary,
No. Yes.
because she was all over the 80s. I remember seeing like and
She was a Jennifer Aniston of 80s.
Well, she got typecast, and that's the reason I think why we haven't seen much of her.
Mhm.
But she, let me see. I'm gonna look it up real quick. But yeah, I think that's. I hate when that happens to
That's the one
actors.
that I remember now. You're right, because you mentioned that again back when I asked you that she getting typecast. That you're
Yeah,
correct. I was confusing her.
and she has 113 114 credits on IMDb. But it's not like she got. If you look for her and you ask people, the first thing that comes to their mind is that boring secretary.
That was
That
the job that defined her career. Now, how can I get 120 credits in IMDb?
we might be on our way though, because we have credits on IMDb.
I want to get some credits. I mean, we have the stunt that we're gonna pull of you trying to push me in front of the stage again. Where every time they say, "Oh, shout outs."
That would be awesome. So if someone out there is listening to this and you actually do anime, we can make it happen. Just reach.
I have an idea, man. I'm gonna make it like a silent comedy sitcom, cartoonish of you and me, like Charlie Chaplin style, like like the cat and the rat killing each other.
You should do an anime with us as characters. I reckon that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I
Yeah.
want to see Captain Chaos.
Robert's gonna look like Tony Stark, but when he opens it here, he's gonna have a heart and he's gonna throw a braid of rainbow heart love like the bears. Happy
Oh,
endings. Ah.
Flies and riding a unicorn.
Yeah.
Feel my happy ending.
Oh,
That sounds so wrong in so many levels.
Unicorn flying past, pooping glitter.
And feel my happy ending.
I'm just reading here on the wiki page that it was Sigourney's suggestion that Dana become possessed by Zool, and Reitman said this solved problems with the last act by giving the characters personal stakes in the events. Weaver also changed Dana's occupation from model to musician, saying that Dana can be somewhat strict but has a soul because she plays the cello.
yeah, and
So
that brings my point there. How many times this film gets rewritten?
and the fact that they were fiddling with it even during production, and that for example, it says here that John Candy was offered the role as Lewis Tully, but he turned it down. And then it was offered to Rick Moranis, and he called back and took it an hour later. Moranis developed many aspects of the character, including making him an accountant, and ad-libbed the lengthy speech at Tully's party. So you know that speech about Tylenol and introducing people. So they're doing all right.
That scene, and I don't know if you're talking about the same scene. That was a continuous shot. When he's talking about the price of salmon and
Yep. He ad-libbed that.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to be impressed with the level of method acting by the people in this movie, that they can ad-lib shit like that and it's indistinguishable from the script.
Yeah.
What I want to see you doing lip sync is Scatman.
Well, we're ad-libbing right now. We don't have a script.
Well, I don't have one. I don't know about you two.
So I'm really, obviously when I watched this film for the first time, it's something that never really crossed my mind. And as I watched this later and learned more about the production of this film, it's one of the things that really surprised me.
If you stop watching so much Star Trek, you might have space in your mind to think about all the things.
Well, yeah. But it really surprises me the level of ad-lib that this film, and not only that, but also the rewrite. And it's, you would think that, you're gonna write something into the ground or rewrite something into the ground, or not following a script, you're not following the line, you're gonna screw up the plot.
Yep.
This is what I call the perfect storm. How everything from the cast to the decisions of what ends up in the film, also from the editors, because there's
Yeah, it could well have been just a huge mess and it was saved in editing.
Exactly. That part we would never know, but this is a perfect storm, because you would not think that the movie in this condition, made that way, would have become the iconic film that we have today. And granted, we have really stellar 80s cast in this film,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just mind-boggling to me after the fact, obviously, after I learned that this film is as good as it is. And it shows you, how this is, if there's one film out there that cannot be duplicated, it would probably be this one. Because at least if you have a script, you could actually try to follow that script. But this one, they had a script and they did not follow it. So yeah, you can't replicate it. You cannot.
That's the bedroom, but nothing happened in there. What a crime.
So that's one of the things. Another thing that I was talking to Gio about when we were watching this film, the backpacks. Can we talk about the backpacks?
The proton, what are they called?
They call it nuclear accelerators.
Can we talk about the temporary bags? Because the backpacks they had to use all the time.
This is something that I never really understood until later, after multiple rewatch. I don't know that necessarily is how many times I rewatched it, but how old I was when I watched it, that actually made me realize how scary that was. And this is something that I was telling Captain Chaos when we were watching that scene, when they were in the elevator.
Oh yeah.
And Ray asked to turn, can you turn me on? Can you turn that backpack on? And they turned that on, and they both of them just move aside, like it was
backed away.
It was kind of, it was successful in creating the effect, because I felt, okay, it seems like this is dangerous. But after I grew mature and I understood what a nuclear accelerator was, is when I realized how scary it actually was.
If one of those things failed and blew up, they'd take out city blocks.
Oh yes, and I know, we're gonna talk briefly about.
Gio, you're muted.
Yeah, he's muted.
I was saying that I can relate to Robert experience, because first time I saw that ray coming out, I was like, that looked so cool. It was a feel of wonderment.
Yeah.
The difference is that when we both realized the reality of what that was, Robert suffered in the future the altercations of handling that wrong could go. And he's like, oh, okay, we're fucked. It looks cool still.
It set the wall on fire. I mean, the wallpaper was.
Yeah, they could be their own very own apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
and the amount of varying radiations that would have been produced by that thing. Nobody was wearing any shielding.
Yes, just the radiation itself. And just to explain, I mean, we're going to go a little bit over into science and science fiction. This is something that I want to talk about now, right? Because we'll talk about the other stuff in there. But this is the equivalent to, it's a particle accelerator. So to kind of like, let me see if I can explain it. Let me see, I have my notes here. A particle accelerator, and I don't know if you want to, if you have a faster, short explanation, Ray. I'm kind of looking for my notes, and
Well, I don't know exactly where you're going, so I kind of have to rely on you.
Oh no, that's fine. I just want to explain what a particle.
Also, biologist, not physicist. So
yeah, that.
You just gotta go into the list of what we have our stuff and you look for Robert's explanation.
We got to look to the script that we don't script. Yeah.
Do you believe that somehow he wanted to have most of it script when we were starting this? And
Oh yeah, when we started season,
imagine what this would have been if we would have done that.
it would be a scripted show.
I wouldn't have been able to do so much messing here and say so much stupid things. Thanks.
So you're welcome. You know, and I'm sure the fans will appreciate it as well.
Hey, that's what I'm stupid for the entertainment.
Hold up, I'm gonna look it up real quick.
so we can blame chaos on the fans, can we?
I'm like soap, man. Everything goes just like swoosh.
So basically, what I was looking for first, before I go into my point and explaining, a particle accelerator is a machine that uses electromagnetic fields to propel particles, charged particles to the very high speeds and energies, and to contain them in a well-defined beam. And these are experiments that have been done all over the world, and I don't know what's going on with my tongue. And
So many Stellas.
so many
I just want some parched charticles. They sound awesome.
I want you to compress some of those for me with graphite so I can use it for my art.
there you go. So many people, when they think about that, they think about the Large Hadron Collider, CERN. You know, that's your typical thing.
Creating micro black holes.
Exactly. So where I'm going with this is basically what they had on their backpacks. It's a portable particle accelerator. So I
Just say portobello mushrooms.
Well, yeah. So as I was watching it later in life, and most likely today, actually, I was doing research on that.
Way later.
Initially, questions. So the first true particle accelerator, delivering 400 kV culminated beam, was created in 1932. So just kind of put it in perspective. The largest hadron collider in the world,
12 miles. 7.
I believe that is CERN,
Yep.
and it was in 2008. And so that brings me to the question of, okay, that's when you think about that, it's like, okay, these are huge things, that's not possible. How can you carry something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to this article from space.com. They said scientists recently fired up the world's smallest particle accelerator for the very first time. This tiny technological triumph, right, is around the size of a small coin.
Oh, that is small.
So I'm
because
like,
the one on the backpacks would be how size of a medium-sized dinner plate.
yes.
So
Yes.
that's much smaller.
And and I don't know if I'm stretching the truth here, but when they turned around, the bottom part of that backpack is that round section. For some reason, I thought, okay, that would probably be the part where
that's the cyclotron. Yes.
Yeah. So
how do I know this? I've watched Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Hey man, after I say GILF and you knew what it was, I don't doubt you anymore.
Oh God. Changing the subject real quick.
Hey, we're still talking about ghosts. That's fine.
Or soon to be ghosts.
Oh God.
So
See,
the reason why
Ray never disappoints. Like you think that does horrible, and then Ray just puts the cherry on top. Like, I can do worse, bro.
it's a competition.
Oh no! We're enjoying the ride.
I'm never backwards in coming forwards.
Oh god.
So the reason why I brought all that up is, number one, this is how my brain works when I'm watching a film.
Mhm.
So, but I'm curious to see if you were actually curious about that. What is your experience about that particular fact within this film? And in comparison, like I mentioned, um, when did you come to conclude, okay, this is that bad? And when did you came to conclude that, oh, this is what it is? And I don't know if we should start with Captain Chaos first, because I think it was 2 years old. Am
Yeah,
I
probably.
mistaken?
Mhm.
Was it, or am I
That is
mistaken?
correct. That is
Oh, okay.
correct.
So
Uh,
go ahead.
I mean, what can I say, man? Like, it's actually kind of cool that they try to portray in the movie. I think that it tells you how geeky is the writer to fandom that we can harness such power for such trivial thing. You know, yeah, the ghost's gonna take over the world, but there's other more dangerous and disastrous things that happen in the world. So it's fun and cool that he's putting us like we are like a force of good when we are harnessing things that powerful and using it for this, not really for destroying each other or doing bad things to other human beings. I think that that's a subliminal message that Ghostbusters has. On top of like the Ghostbusters give you that kind of vibe of sense of security to the community as the local firefighters, for example.
Yes.
Well,
Have you
they were in a
noticed that?
fire station,
Yeah,
but they were working out of an old hearse, so that's a little concerning.
I think
but
that
they
was
didn't have a Dalmatian.
no, that's sad. But I
Uh,
think they were fine.
but honestly, like I never. It's like it's what I tell you for the analogy when we realized the danger of what that was when I was a kid and I saw it for the first time. I remember that moment. That moment that was a moment of watching a movie that imprinted in my mind, and I was like, "Whoa, that looks so cool!" When I saw that ray going up, when I saw Ray going up, and but when you told me that, I was like, okay, I still think it looked awesome when I was a kid, but we're fucked, you know, like
But we're
like it's like when you and I started talking into our labyrinth conversation on why don't we use hydrogen as a combustion system, and it's like, yeah, you can blow up and we won't find even the particles of your, but like maybe there's a future where we actually can harness that power. I think that I've seen in California they did a limited edition of like a concept car that uses like tanks, fills up in 5 minutes, and it gives you 1,500 miles water. You know, but if that crashes, how bad could it be? You know,
well, it's water, so
and
you
and
could
th- th-
beware.
there are things that is better like left them, like let the questions unanswered. Because. Uh, Too much power can also bring it's let's go back to Yoda, bro. A lot of power comes with a lot of responsibility. And that
Yeah.
was not Yoda, right?
No,
Another
yeah,
Spider-Man quote. Thanks.
There
exactly.
you go. But I had to say Yoda, man. I had to piss off people, man. Come on, I have people to piss off in here.
Oh, you're still waiting for people to call us on our phone number and abuse you. They haven't
Hey,
got to it yet.
hey,
Nah,
chaos,
bro.
chaos,
Look,
chaos.
if you have a problem with me, listener, call
May,
me. If you don't have my number, you don't know me enough to have a problem with me.
chaos. May the fourth be with you, man.
It goes with spiritu.
If, by the way, listeners, if you would like to call up and abuse Chaos, the number is 1305-563-6334.
No,
That's
6969.
1305-563-6334. Our operators are standing by to take your abuse. And now back
But
to the regularly scheduled
now,
program.
no, back to Australia.
Yeah. So go ahead, Ray. You were.
Look, this movie came out in the depths of the Cold War, right? Like I
Yeah.
remember in the 70s and 80s, like every time I thought about it, we could die from nuclear attack anytime. And apparently there was a couple of times we nearly did. And if it wasn't for a couple of people who kept their heads, we wouldn't be watching movies anymore. We'd be rubbing rocks together. So I'm kind of pleased that it went the way it did. But with the threat of nuclear Armageddon hanging over your head every single day for a couple of decades, looking at, a proton energy pack that somebody's wielding to capture ghosts, it's like, yeah, whatever. Didn't bother me too much. But if you really drill down into the science of it, it's like, whoa. But I wasn't considering it back then because we had much greater concerns, like nuclear Armageddon. Yeah, I mean it's all about the era in which you consider these things, I guess, and what you're comparing it to. But yeah, so I mean they go in, and I highly recommend you watch the third movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I mean, we're not covering it here in this episode, but it is very good, and it continues on the trend of internal consistency with the science. And I wanted to bring that up as a topic because it really is important to me as a writer, that there can be fantastical elements, and that's fine because it's a story that's meant to entertain, and the science in it doesn't always have to be grounded in fact in our universe, but it needs to be internally consistent within the universe of the story. And I've experienced a lot of different parts of this IP, be it the movies, the games, the comics, and all of it holds together. I'm very quick to pick up on inconsistencies, and I just really don't see any in this story. The technobabble that they go on with in the movie really sounds quite believable. I mean, as a scientist, you hear something in a movie and it doesn't make any sense, like it's lacking internal consistency, or it just, how does that work? That doesn't make any sense. And it throws me as a scientist out of the narrative immediately, because my brain starts going, hang on, how does that work? That doesn't work properly. Why would they do it like that? And be it lazy writing, or they just didn't consult anybody who had any clue about how this thing worked, or could work, or theorized to work. But the Ghostbusters story, and again, I was impressed by it with my rewatch just last night, that the technobabble and the technology as it exists within the universe of Ghostbusters all seems to hang together quite well. Sure, if you were trying to make something like the proton energy pack in our world, you would have a lot of trouble, because how would you fuel the damn thing? But obviously we can make them that small now, but probably in the 80s we couldn't. Cyclotrons, that is. Yeah, I mean, none of it to me seemed out of place, and the technobabble and the delivery of the technobabble, which was quite impressive. The actors spouted things that just seemed like everyday occurrences to them, which were complete and utter technobabble to me when I first saw this. And trying to understand what they're saying as an adult scientist, I can't really fault them for their delivery or their construction of the science in this world. It all hangs together, and it's all quite believable within the universe of Ghostbusters. Yeah. And it also sort of showcases the intent of the pitch of the story, in that just about any other ghost movie that you see, people are running away in fear, and there's nothing you can do about it. There might be, you might call in a priest for an exorcism, or cast some sort of spell using some sort of magic to try and get rid of the ghosts, or what have you. But it's rarely, if ever, dealt with technologically. There's never people who sit down and try and scientifically nut out how this is happening and what we can do about it. And that's what makes this movie different. It's science versus spirituality. And the science, stacks up pretty well by the looks of things, because they saved the world. So, yeah, I mean, it's a feel-good movie, especially for scientists, in that science prevails. and it prevails without destroying everything, which is always a fear, and it prevails in a way which is somewhat wholesome and supportive of the universe in which it exists, which I really appreciate.
And religion hunts houses, people, and gets caught in little boxes.
I don't know the religion specifically, but spirits.
It's spirits. Spirits.
Um, I had another question too, and this is particularly towards a scene
Mhm.
where Peck, when
What is in Robert's mind?
This
he
man has no dick.
he went with the whatever order he had to shut down the equipment, which I believe, and I'm not, let me say this: was this kind of like another hadron collider that we're using to contain the spirits? That little receptacle they use on the wall, and what do you think? And before I continue, I just want to make sure, what is your thoughts on how they were keeping the
I'll go first because I'm the less intelligible here.
It's less intelligent.
Hey, at least I admit it up front, right? So that way none of you gets to tell me that.
You're learning. You are learning,
Good
young.
point, right? But I think that Robert and I, like, we have talks like this many times. When I have some whiskey, somehow instead of getting more stupid, I get more semantic, and I can fool you that I can actually talk about some things. But the fear with these technologies is that we don't have the space to really test them without fucking up the earth and dying and imploding, because we don't want to create even a teeny tiny black hole in here. It'll kill us all in a matter of seconds. But in theory and most of it, we have all of what we need to really bring all of this to a reality and test it out. Like you told me yourself, Robert, to in the past too. Like, it's just like it's not viable for us to create something that will create a black hole here. Doesn't matter how small it is, not even in our stratosphere. It will disrupt everything and probably kill us too, because it goes gaining mass. Whatever it starts sucking up, imagine if it just sucks up the air right away. And they're handling something with that power. This is not anymore about exploding, evaporating everything. This is about absorbing it and gaining mass, so it becomes bigger too at the same time. So it's like it kills something, but with that, it also gains more power to continue killing on. Right?
that's how you feed a black hole. Yes. Um,
So what will happen if one of those machines malfunction? Creates a
well,
black hole?
that's what I was getting to, right? Because we see how the machine was shut down. And I think, was it Egon that says it, that there has to be, it just can't, it just simply can't just, you can't just turn it off. There should have to be some procedures you have to follow to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
It can't just suddenly shut off. So I was kind of like looking up, because I was curious about what would happen if you just simply or suddenly shut off a hadron collider.
What would Robert do?
Well, if it was running at the time, running an experiment, and you suddenly shut it off,
Yes.
Instead of the particles traveling in a circle thanks to the magnetism disappeared. They'd start traveling in a straight line and go out the side of the collider and cause a huge fucking mess until they ran out of energy.
Oh my god.
Yes.
So yeah, you don't switch that shit off. Not while it's running.
And then the air that is turning in a perfect axis out of nowhere goes like
I was looking at this. There's a couple of points that I found, but yeah, that you actually simplify the entire thing. This it's not good news.
Well,
Um,
but
It's surreal. It's surreal that we get to tinker with forces that are larger in scale of our own habitat. Really, think about it.
well, that speaks to the power of science
Yeah.
and why I feel science is so important.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Science is imperative for the advancement of of the human race. You know, without science, we're not going forward.
Uh,
That's imperative. At least in my mind, at least in my mind, there's no way that you can divorce science right now from the diplomacy and moving forward to being a more advanced civilization. Because I mean, altercations and war is inevitable at some point. Not with ourselves. I hope that. I mean, I think that that's the final goal to become the highest level of civilization is collective consciousness. But
well,
uh, that doesn't mean that you're gonna have to be able to evade a war or a conflict if we ever encounter other species. I mean, what if they are like the Prometheus? You know, like I don't think that they're bad. It's just their language. Maybe warfare is how they speak, just like Predator. You know, could be. Oh my god! No, I'm recording,
the
dude.
predators are calling you.
Ah, bro.
I don't like being misrepresented like that.
Ray, you're about to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that this you got to divorce the study of science and the application of science because they're two markedly different things. The study of science is understanding the universe, and we can only know it as we know it at this point in time. We will learn more as time goes by if science keeps getting studied, if it keeps getting funded, and people keep asking the questions that we can answer. We've asked a lot of questions that we just can't answer yet, and because the technology or the understanding isn't there. But the application of science is where things get very muddy. The two periods in the last century where, and I say the last century, I mean the 20th century, where science increased quickest was the two world wars. And the reason why it did is because people were looking for more efficient ways to kill each other, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it went. And if it wasn't for World War II, America would not have landed on the moon in 1969. It's just a fact of life that the development of rocketry by the Germans in World War II is what launched the space race. It wouldn't have happened without World War II. So, while we look at wars, especially large-scale wars, and think that they're terrible things and they shouldn't happen, they do have an effect on our understanding of the universe and our technological level as well. Of course, if your technological level gets a bit too high and then you have a war, you often end up obliterating yourselves, and then that's not going to help us one little bit. So it's very much a razor's edge that you travel along as science knowledge increases and you start splitting atoms and things like that. But getting back to my point, we're studying science to try and understand ourselves and the universe that we live in, but it's the application of that science where things get concerning. And obviously, we in our universe here, like the real physical universe, we don't see ghosts zooming around particularly regularly and causing telekinetic issues and sliming people and stuff like that. So they need to be wrangled and dealt with. So there hasn't been a need to develop technologies to be able to capture and trap ghosts and incarcerate them. But if that sort of phenomenon was common, quite possibly somebody would have invented equipment like this to deal with them in exactly the same way. And of course, if we had that problem that was in the movie that needed that solution, we could have seen the development of that technology based from what had been suggested in this movie back in '84 by this stage. But we don't have the need. The need isn't there, therefore the production of the equipment isn't there. But it doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just means it's not needed. So it doesn't get created. But of course, miniaturizing cyclotrons, yes, we've done that. So theoretically, you could put one in a backpack, but powering it's the issue because it requires a lot of power to maintain the magnetic fields. And of course, we know that with electric cars, it's very hard to create batteries that can release a lot of power regularly and not take forever to be recharged. They did talk in the comics about recharging the backpacks. So obviously they had some sort of battery mechanism in them supplying power rather than, like a little nuclear reactor or something. But the containment grid and the containment facility that was installed underneath the firehouse, and, how the hell did they install that thing without getting permits and stuff first is quite beyond me. Also, of course, it was important for the progress of the movie, but having somebody arrogantly walk in there with writs and orders and stuff and having some sort of highly technological, possibly dangerous system, which is currently stable and not causing any problems, shut down unilaterally by somebody who doesn't understand it, is complete and utter ridiculousness and bullshit. They would not do it. If you've got a situation which is stable, you do not destabilize it, especially when the people who own the thing tell them not to do it. Look, you do that and it's going to blow up. I would recommend you don't do it. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't. You'd get people in from other universities who work in the fields and get them to tell you about it. You get an investigation from a third party so that it could be unbiased, and then you get some idea of how the damn thing worked, and then you work out how to shut it down.
To add to what you were saying, technically they were not saying no. They would have turned it off. What they were saying is there's a process to turn the damn thing off. You can't just pull the plug.
Well, it's like any prison. You can't just open all the doors and expect the prisoners to stay in there.
Yeah.
But they didn't mention anything about cyclotrons being involved in that system. I think it was just a high energy grid that kept the ghosts from escaping, which may also have been the technology used for the traps as well. But I've never read anything about how they postulated that the traps worked. It was all about the backpacks. I've got some idea how they postulated the backpack should work, but yeah, the traps and the containment grid I haven't ever read anything about. But Google might suffice if I went looking far enough.
So it is, and of course, I'm just making conjecture here based on what I've seen so far, but it is possible, very likely possible that this is a complete different system and the reactions might be completely different. So if it is what you think it is, what you think would be the reaction in turning it off?
Well,
yes.
If you've got physically what's the word I'm looking for? If you've got spiritual entities that are physically manifesting in some manner and able to affect the physical world, they've got some level of energy or power to be able to do that. And they've been put into this containment facility, which for whatever method holds them so they can't get out. And there's a lot of them in there. There's a lot of power in there, right? Yeah. The moment you shut down the containment grid, those entities are now able to interact with the walls, the physical walls, not the containment grid itself of the facility. And that's why all the bricks were starting to push out, because the creatures were looking for a way to escape the spirits. And in the end, they just went straight up through 3 floors and out the roof because it looked cool. But I mean, Egon did say shutting down the containment grid is effectively dropping a bomb on the city. Now, if someone said that to you would you still continue with your arrogant move forward, or would you go, maybe we should look into this before we, with a stable system, and possibly create an explosion?
I think that either way, arrogance is not the answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess in the same line of conversation, you would think that something like that would have some sort of permit.
Yes.
Um,
Well, they would have needed a huge power supply for that thing, I would think, and it would need to be stabilized. So, running lines from the power distribution node directly to them without having it interrupted anywhere, or having a backup generator, or just something to maintain stable power to the thing, because you wouldn't want power fluctuations.
yeah, I was just thinking, like, if there is any way that they can do some sort of clean energy, which is still drawing straws, because the amount of power you need for something like that is just tremendous. I was just thinking that the only thing that would probably make sense if they just install that without telling anyone, and
Sounds like something Egon would do.
yeah, and that would explain as to why Peck would come down searching for what that is. Does that make sense to the two of you? I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's just like you would think that the kind of equipment that you would need, is it possible to install it without attracting attention? It's just, but then again, we have to consider this is the 80s, where regulations were completely different.
I mean, they could have just bribed a few officials and snuck it through without getting on the record or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't something very, very respected.
Because that is the only reason why I would think that. And again, like I said, I'm drawing straws. I'm just digging where there's nothing there. But that would be the only reason why it would make sense for Peck to go in searching for what's going on.
Well, would you like me to give Captain Chaos a conspiracy theory to chew on?
Please.
Oh God.
It's not like any help, but by all
Well,
means.
how did Peck find out about this? Maybe somebody who was bribed blabbed, or maybe Janine phoned it in anonymously because she was pissed off with them for keeping her working for 2 weeks straight and not getting other help.
You are right. She was mad. She didn't have any breaks.
Yes. I think that the latter.
Oh, dear. She's actually in the latter movie, the third movie.
There you go.
Yeah. Nice.
And apparently she married Egon at some
Ladies are more emotional, so I wouldn't blame her to actually plot a whole revenge plan and go through it with it. And I tell you, revenge is not the answer, but you feel so good when you can do it.
point.
And that is a quote from very own Captain Chaos, bringing the chaos home.
Revenge is a dish best served cold, and it's very cold in space.
I like my people, like my tea, in a bag under the water.
Man, being frenemies with you is fraught with danger.
Would you have a line of quotes? What would Captain Chaos say?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
We need to create a chat GPT bot called Captain Chaos. And what would Captain Chaos say?
This is ground zero, man. This is where it all begins. One day we'll look back and we're like, wow, I was part of that.
And now you know why he has all that soundproofing behind him.
Yep.
And those weapons. And you know what, he's walking around, you hear that crunching noise, that's the plastic on the floor.
Yep. And I have like at least with me, I have like 4 flip knives.
Oh.
I love playing with sharp things, man. I don't know why.
Oh boy.
And hey, so since we're on it, if you're listening, don't play with sharp things. They're dangerous. Don't point it at people and stay away from them. They are tools to be used for what they need to. I am not a good example. Okay.
Should we,
Yeah,
did we get this train back on the rails before the feds come knocking on his door?
yeah,
Oh,
Captain
yeah.
Chaos as a little kid running.
FBI! Hey, shout out to
Um,
my boss in NSA.
so
Okay.
you hear me talking about all the stuff that I'm overthinking while watching this movie.
Really?
So I'm kind of curious if there was a particular thing when you watch this film. It doesn't matter if it was when you watched it for the first time or after many rewatch or even today. If there's one thing that you can point out about this film that you overthought about, what would that thing be, and how did you resolve that in your head?
Mass sponge migration.
The what?
The mass sponge migration.
Hmm. Uh,
Remember, I was at a mass sponge migration. The sponges moved 2 feet.
I didn't take the movie like that though. Like, I mean, I was too young. I not ashamed of it, but I didn't rewatch that movie until today.
okay.
And when I was a little kid, so I've watched Ghostbusters twice, even though I know very well the franchise. But I used to watch the cartoons on Cartoon Network back in '90s too,
Okay.
because they have a lot of. That's the thing. Like when you guys were mentioning about like a brand of something that you love being in many different types of products. So I think that we talk about this in all the other IPs that we like. Ghostbusters is one of those big names, that they're in everything. They're in lunch boxes. They have little figurines. They become part of the culture of that decade, and Ghostbusters were that. They were part of my childhood, you know,
Mhm.
in more ways than just the movie. So yeah.
Um, from your rewatch today, um, which was very interesting. Um, what could you say that you did not have a specific part that you overthought when we were watching? It's just
I
purely
think
enjoyment.
no, because I mean this is your fault, Robert. Yeah, because I used to be overly critical of movies and much more movies that were not like freaking Inception with CGI, or freaking Interstellar. And
Yeah.
now it's like I just take movies for what they are. If it's a bad comedy, I'm not gonna enjoy it. You know, like when I'm in my house, the buddy of mine, he likes 80s things, but he puts some movies that are like bad comedy. I'm like, that's just bad comedy. But when it's good, I am able not to enjoy it for what it is. But like plot wise, not really. I mean, it's a very standard and simple structure for a movie, where you gotta have a nemesis because you don't have really a bad guy. It's a ghost, and they save the day, and basically they become a symbol of security for a community. It's a very simple movie. I think it's wholesome, and at the same time, it's sophisticated the way that it's composed. It's not simple in the way that it's like, oh, there's no work into that. It has good comedy, it has good sarcasm. Uh, I don't think that it needs a lot of changes. I haven't watched the second one. Don't hate on me, or the third one.
You brought a really good point because one of the things that I find interesting when watching this film is the fact on how you can see them become a city utility.
Yeah.
And you kind of they kind of bring this home.
In the beginning of the movie, they look more like an empty department, and they just took over it, and they want to make this become a reality, but nobody really takes them serious.
Exactly.
So it's like, who the fuck are these guys?
You realize they have become a city utility once the police showed up, and you're like, whoa, things is now this is
Exa-
serious. They got this guy, didn't know what to do with them, but they
yeah,
figured, you know what,
but
might as
but
well.
they're portrayed like these clowns that took over an abandoned fireplace station, and the city's just letting them do it. So they're in their corner doing their thing, until they start becoming something serious. Things start falling into place with the causality of the problems that become to arise, and they are the only ones that are selected for it. So it's funny. It's like an underdog that is not taken seriously, but it's gonna be the one needed in the deepest moment.
Yeah. Another thing that I liked about this progress done in this film is when you see them when they call and they the bell rings just like it would happen in the fire department, and they go
Hmm.
in their car, and the sirens, and they can go through traffic. It's another indication when you're like, they have become a full-fledged city utility, um, in comparison to what like how they started in the film. Um, what did you think about that, Ray? I don't know if you.
I do think they were riding on the back of the paradigm of emergency services, and in a way, if there's a semi-corporeal entity that's causing people problems, be it hyperventilation or fear-related health issues, or property destruction, um, having a service, even a privately owned one, but is ratified by the local government, to be able to go and deal with that. um, makes sense, from sort of a service standpoint for the community. And it's like Gio was saying, they become like protectors of the community from these semi-corporeal threats.
Hmm.
And they do appear to be quite threatening, be it just causing fear or actually physically interacting with the environment, trashing places, destroying things, ruining people's livelihoods, quite possibly. um, Human beings are fickle creatures, and if your restaurant was haunted by something as physical as the ghosts in Ghostbusters, I'm sure that your patronage would drop very quickly, and you could end up going broke and going out of business. So
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it's the key element of all this is until the town, the people are the one that give them the recognition, that doesn't become real, because they are anything. If they are, is for the community.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful message. It's very wholesome.
Gio, you should watch the second movie and the third movie. They are really quite good.
Oh yeah.
I will, man.
You,
Probably we're
you,
gonna end up covering, so it's
you,
gonna
you
be
know how
beautiful.
sequels tend to sort of dip.
Matrix
No,
much?
but
Matrix
yeah,
much?
Matrix. Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point, because the most recent Matrix movie, Matrix.
It was a consolation prize for me.
Yeah. What was the
Still
name?
didn't.
Um, Re-
Revolution, Resurrections.
Resurrection.
It
That
was
was it. Yeah.
a consolation prize for me. It still doesn't make up to the greatness of the first one, and how it was declining
Yeah.
all the way to the Resurrection. I didn't like Resurrection. A lot of people liked it. I did not like it. Reloaded, I liked it, but I think it's just I liked it, and I know because it had a lot more action and fun stuff, but not like the plot was like way better. It kind of stayed plateau and then you sunk.
Mhm. I actually agree with everything you just said. I didn't think much of Resurrections, so much so that I couldn't remember the name of the
Yeah,
bloody thing.
yeah.
But it felt like a cheap telly movie to me.
It was a better it was a better band-aid to put on top of Resurrection. I think
Yeah.
that's how I
but,
felt
but
about
but
it.
but considering how it failed to deliver, you could look at Ghostbusters Afterlife and think that it would do the same thing. But
Yeah.
it's one of those kept in the family thing where I think it was Harold Ramis, which is no, sorry, Harold Reichman, who's Ivan Reichman's son, took over the directing role for the third movie.
All right.
And he actually grew up running around on the set of the Ghostbusters movies,
Oh wow.
and he was like
It really
there when they were filmed, right? So he was on board, and he was keen, and I think they did a really good job with Ghostbusters Afterlife. I really enjoyed it. It felt authentic, and it felt like it continued on in the right sort of vein, and the comedy was quite similar, and and the stakes were very familiar, and
Mhm.
and the technobabble was familiar, and I really quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a great little addition to the franchise. So I highly recommend
Usually,
Ghostbusters Afterlife.
like sequels, when they don't detour from the main purpose of the characters, and they don't try to reinvent the things, the story, it goes well. You know, there's no problems. There's things that are like books to movies that I wonder why they didn't do it the other way around. Like the Lord of the Rings are so much more books, and they just did one for each. And then The Hobbit is such a little book, and they did 4 movies for it. And I'm like, oh, why? But then again, at least it didn't change things in the story.
Mm.
But when they change things in the story, or they try to like play around with big characters that are going to determine the whole event, like they did in the Matrix, I don't know why they made it all about Smith. Like to me, Smith was an important archie enemy, but it was not the big guy, and they kind of made it about him. And I think they should have been, in my opinion.
Well, Smith basically became the virus that he accused the humans of being, which was sort
Yeah,
of
but still, what I think is he's just a virus. He's not the machines. He's not the main brain or anything. Like he's not the main villain. He's an insect. Let's go back track because we're talking about Matrix now. We already did that episode, man. If you want to listen more about it, even though the Matrix was fighting me, go and check it out. It's already in all of our listening platforms, and you can also go to YouTube if you want to see actually phone stuff.
well, as a comparison for the trajectory of the Ghostbusters movies, including the two that we're not actually covering today, the
Mhm.
Matrix is a good comparison. But yeah, I don't think we need to go too far into the Matrix
But
theology.
that's reassuring. That's reassuring because it tells me then that and that's a good thing that I know what to expect for sequels in Ghostbusters, which
Yeah.
is what a fan want. When you're gonna watch a sequel, you want to know what to expect. You don't want it to change because even though it's a bold move, most of the times it's like it screws with the IP, you know.
Hmm.
So I'll actually look it up and watch them.
Cool. Yeah, I think
Thank
you
you, man.
should. I think you'll enjoy them. If you enjoyed the first one, you certainly enjoy the other two.
Oh yeah,
So if you come over, we could do it like
I need to plan to go over, bro, and I'll take my computer so we can install that shit.
yeah. So we can watch it one right after the other. I think I'm overdue.
Yep.
Should we head towards final thoughts?
Yes. Let's go ahead and move on to the last question of the show, which is if you have not listened to the show before, the question that we always ask is, what was your last impression of this film? And this is basically a combination of all your thoughts from the very first time that you watched this film, the many rewatches in between, to the last time that you watched this film, which in our case is today, or close to today. So, who would like to go first? I can go first if you like.
Yeah, go for it.
So, for me, this just like I said before, the 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 n- the actual word that comes to mind first is nostalgic. This film is completely nostalgic. I'm sure that if you yeah, you've probably seen this film. It's kind of hard not to at this time. But for me, that I watched it, unfortunately, not in the theaters, but close enough to the release date. It was just a fun and to borrow Captain Chaos's word, wholesome film in its message. It and through the many times or many rewatches that I have done, it's basically a journey for me where I go from the innocence, the eyes of innocence of a teenager, all the way to the science heavy overthinking of my later years. And it's some films are not like that. right? They're either heavy or not heavy. Um, but this one, just the way that it was filmed, and I don't know if it's thanks to the mixture between science fiction, comedy, and horror, it lends to that where you could actually watch it and enjoy it for what it is. And then if you want to go the route of overthinking, like we do in the show, you can also do that. And there's a lot of discovery on it. At least to me, in every rewatch, there's some aha moments or things that that
Why
really.
you didn't have that mentality, Robert, when your daughters were toddlers and they wanted to watch the same fucking cartoon 70,000 times? Ah,
Because it
Ray
was
too.
Care Bears.
It was Barney. It was Barney.
Party. I was with Baby Shark, bro. Oh, she said Cocomelo. Oh no,
It was Barney.
no.
So yeah, this movie is a combination of many things. It's
Yeah.
nostalgic, it's fun to watch, is a comedy, there's many laughs, there's room for scientific thought. It's all over the place for me, and I really love it for what that is. And it is a movie that, although the sequels are as good, well, not as good, they're good. um this is a kind of film that could never be replicated. And it is, like I spoke before in this episode, is a perfect storm, and it's a jewel. And if very hard if you have not seen it, but if you have not seen it, um I would strongly recommend it. And that is my final thought.
Nice.
You want to go next, Ray, or you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go next. Um, it's very much like what Robert said. This movie is a perfect storm. It brings together spirituality, science, comedy, and the execution is almost flawless. It's amazing how well it holds up even after all these years. It's like comfort food for movie watchers.
Oh yes.
And you can just put it on and you don't have to worry. You can just enjoy it. Everything happens. The lines are delivered
I
amazingly.
mean, worry if you want. It's a problem.
Sigourney Weaver's looking damn fine. And just, it's got so much going for it. It's just, it should be, in the top 5 classic sci-fi movies of all time, I think, because it's just that good. And yeah, I think people of just about any age could enjoy it, maybe 10 plus, because any younger than that, you might get scared of the ghosts. But yeah, I mean, it's even got a great soundtrack.
Some of the comedy might go over your head. Like when I was a little kid and I watched it, a lot of the comedy went over my head for being so little.
Mm. Yeah, but you still get something out of it, even if you watch it.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you can revisit this when you can watch this when you're a tween, and then revisit it again when you're an adult and get something completely different from it, which shows its depth. But also, it's got an amazing soundtrack. I used to listen to the soundtrack when I was a teenager. Oh yeah, that's something we didn't mention, that Ray Parker Jr. was actually sued by now who was it? It was Huey Lewis and the News, who did music for another movie that we've covered, Back to the Future, and they had a song out just before the Ghostbusters tune came out called "I Want a New Drug," and the two songs, not lyrics, but music riffs were very similar. And Huey Lewis and the News actually sued Ray Parker Jr. for breach of copyright, and it was settled out of court. So that kind of suggests that maybe he did. I don't know, but it was similar enough to.
I'm sorry if you settle, it's because you're admitting.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, certainly. But yeah, I mean, the Ghostbusters tune must have made Ray Parker Jr. a crap ton of money, so he didn't care.
Yeah.
He just shared it around
I
a little
mean,
bit.
there were toys of all kinds for Ghostbusters, and I mean everybody loved it. As a kid, something I never had. I always wanted that little box thing.
Oh, the trap.
Yeah, I always wanted it, and I have little kid friends that like for Christmas they will get it, bro, and it looked freaking cool, and it was just freaking cardboard painted. They were selling you cardboard painted, and it was cool, you know.
Amazing. But yeah, so I mean, it's got so much going for it, this movie, that if you haven't seen it, and unfortunately if you've listened this far into the show, we've spoiled a whole bunch of things, but go and watch
Please
it anyway.
write me, tell me what went through your head listening through a whole movie that you really didn't watch. I want to
I
hear
mean,
that version.
I have to admit that while listening to you guys on season 1, I would sometimes listen to podcasts of shows that I hadn't seen yet, thinking, oh yeah, I don't think I'll end up watching that, so I'll just listen to your podcast and find out what it was about. And having listened to you guys talk about it, I decided I wanted to watch it. So you convinced me multiple times to watch things that I otherwise wouldn't have watched. So I can understand
I guess that our podcast
it.
does work, right?
It does. No, I can verify. Can verify. N equals 1, but I can verify.
It has an effect in people.
It makes me wonder what would be our track record, like, how many times would we write? Awesome.
Well, I mean, if you can bring up enough interest that make people want to watch something, then you must be, coming up. You must be analyzing it in the right way and presenting it in the right way. So that's sort of kudos to you guys.
Awesome.
It all started going the best way when you were a board man.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, we thank our resident mad scientist for the science behind science.
Hell yeah, man. He's the one that made sure that you and I are not looking intelligent and really making fun of ourselves.
Well, the beauty of that was I brought it up, started doing it, and dragged you guys along, and you ended up doing it when I wasn't here. So it's like, yeah.
And now Ray sings out a new version of Drake's song for us that says, "It started from the bottom, now they're here."
I have to drag you guys up by bootstraps.
Oh, wow. Well, it's my turn now.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys said all the most of what I would also say. We're here like the 3 kids that they really didn't do the homework, so we're just putting our name in the group and plagiarizing a little bit. But it's because really we actually think alike. I think that to me, even though I watch it only once, because DVDs or VHS was not a big thing where I was. I mean, they had, but it was not like everybody could have it. But I think that Ghostbusters to me is one of those movies that revolutionized what filmmaking industry is as a whole. Because the way I also see it is that you got genres, but every time that you create a new subgenre that's experimental and that could create a whole world of things, of businesses, of movies, or other things that will go into horror, comedy, and action or suspense.
Oh,
What
yeah.
call it. Some subgenres are just like a freaking unicorn. Like you're trying to put too much together, and really people are not gonna bother to try to do things like that. But there are some that are something new. They're not common, and I think that Ghostbuster was kind of like a pathfinder, like a beginning, a pioneer in its time. If you try to name me 3 more movies that were like Ghostbusters in the time of Ghostbusters or before, probably they are not.
Yeah, it's
There,
that
there isn't something you can put like along the lines, It's like Star Wars. Like you're gonna tell me Star Wars and Star Trek because they're different, But you can tell me Galactica and Star Trek, they go more along the same cookie cutter style, even though they're not the same.
Babylon 5.
How would you know? I'd say again with the comparison of like Ghostbusters and The Matrix. I mean, those were 2 sort of pivotal movies. Perfect storms showcasing what you can do when it all comes together.
Yeah. What you gonna do when they come for you? Um, but honestly, I think that everybody should watch it at least once. I think that this is a good family movie because, like I said earlier, even though it's horror, it's not horror like it's gory or it shows a lot of blood or disgusting things. They keep it PG-13, and they keep it engaging instead of suspenseful all the time.
It's no
And
Goblin Slayer, is what you're telling me.
for sure, for sure. There's no despair there's not being raped in despair.
Oh, good.
Go Slayer. Every other episode goes Slayer. Don't watch it, Robert. Don't watch it.
No,
Your
Gobbo
beautiful
Slayer
heart,
is
your
not
beautiful
for
heart
you,
is not
Robert.
made for that. Uh, but I think also it has big actors. It has one big one that became like one of the greatest actors that Hollywood ever seen. Bill Murray. I mean, uh, how many movies don't we like from him? He's like do you know that when you really like an actor that you would enjoy almost anything from them, they become like your hero, an actor hero. Like Robin
You,
Williams was that for me. Jim
Yeah.
Carrey is that for me.
you
And
know how
actor
you know
hero.
that somebody's become like that, Gio?
Well,
When they play themselves in a movie. That's when you know they're like
Yes.
actor hero, and that was Bill Murray in that zombie flick, Zombieland.
Oh
oh
yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
Played
yeah.
himself.
Somebody. I love that movie. And so most people I know like Robert likes that movie,
Mhm.
and I find it funny because Robert is zombied out. He probably won't watch shit with zombie. He's
I
just
watched
like,
so
nah,
much zombie stuff.
nah. But Zombieland, he loved it. You know.
Well,
Uh,
that was another horror comedy. So
But it makes a comparison because I said Robin Williams. I'm not sure if Robin Williams directly did it, but Schwarzenegger he is playing himself.
Mm.
Well, he's played the another universe actor. He's like an actor from
Oh
like an
yes, Last Action Hero. Yes,
last
I love
action
that
hero.
movie. That was great.
It's that's kind of the same thing as playing himself, but being like made about it. Uh, and Jim Carrey too, I think. But it's good examples, because like it shows you the beginnings of these actors and that they had that good quality from the get go,
Mm.
and that creates solidarity between the audience and their actors. So I don't know if you notice sometimes, uh, even though the movie doesn't have a big name of director and stuff, if it has one or two good actors, everybody goes and watch it.
But Ivan Reitman was a big name in
Oh,
producing back in the
yeah,
80s.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And then everybody knew Murray and Aykroyd and Moranis from Saturday Night Live. So
That's the
I
thing.
mean,
I didn't watch Saturday Night Live. I get to watch now after older, like the funniest ones, because my friends like Robert sometimes say like cowbells. I didn't know about cowbells until Robert showed it to me.
We need more cowbells.
And yesterday I was in I think I was in a shop waiting for service to be done, and it was playing, and I was like there sitting with my friend waiting in the counter, and I just started. Because the music was going all night, and he just looked at me and rolled his eyes, and people started laughing. I like that, bro. I'll make you with me in public. You're either gonna laugh or you're gonna have the shameless moment of your life. I promise you that.
just keep your pants on. That's all I ask.
Oh no, yeah.
So
No,
listener, you understand me now.
yeah.
Now you understand me.
That's why Robert doesn't take me out.
Unless you're on a leash.
But yeah, everybody, yeah. Well, if you can put me in a leash, it's
I don't think that works.
I, I think that I'm your dumb. Uh, well, going back to it and to close it down, I think that everybody should watch the movie at least once. And I mean, why would I not follow the advice of my great anime master?
Anime
So
sensei.
even though I haven't watched the number two, I would also forward that advice because I mean, it's a good thing when you know what to expect more so about a sequel. And this movie was very good. and I think that there's a lot of elegance and sophistication and simplicity. The plot is simple, but it's well made and solid, and that gives you a good gratification, satisfaction of watching that movie. It's good.
Nice. Okay. And I guess with that we say goodbye to Ghostbusters.
He's got his alarm
Oh, awesome. So are we ready for the last segment?
The science can sci-fi.
on. Ready?
The science in sci-fi.
Okay. So I just wrote a couple of things there, but you know how it is. We take a pick and with it.
Well, I was going to say that I've kind of alluded to this already in the main part of the show, but while the science in this movie is all theoretical, and some of it doesn't necessarily track within our reality, the reality of the movie, which is obviously different from our own because ghosts are physical and they fly around and piss people off a lot, they had need for technologies to deal with this and they came up with them, whereas we don't. So the technologies that are sort of displayed in this movie aren't something that there's been a reason for creating in our reality, because we don't have the same conditions. But if we did, we could quite possibly have seen equipment like this being created for the same purpose if we had to deal with what they have to deal with. But obviously, in that we don't have the same situations, we don't have the same equipment being produced because we just don't have the need for it. But having said that, there are some things scientifically related which Robert's about to go through, which he found when trolling the internet and asking AIs for answers.
Awesome. So one of the things that caught my attention, that is very obvious thing on this film, is this film actually, the characters are portraying parapsychologists and ghost hunters. And although I don't know how scientifically proven it is, parapsychology is a real field of study that explores the paranormal phenomena, like stuff like it's not all about ghosts and stuff, but it covers telekinesis, ESPs, aside from apparitions.
The supernatural.
Yeah, and like I said, it kind of proves it kind of it doesn't it kind of lacks basically scientific support. It has generated interesting research on the fringes of mainstream in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to bring it up that I don't know if many of our listeners might not be familiar with, but it is a real field of study. Go ahead.
Now, I was just going to say that now the guy who does Star Talk, whose name won't come to me, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I was listening to some of his podcasts a couple of years ago, and he was talking about human senses are the most unreliable method for measuring scientific information. And you can't really claim a scientific result unless you can measure it with a device, be it a camera or an audio recording device or some sort of sensor or radiation detector or
something accurate that doesn't rely on our human malleable senses.
Exactly. Wow, that's probably one of the smartest things you've ever said, Chaos.
On days they come.
and some days they go. Ah.
Some days they don't. They don't even go. They just come.
They just stay there. Oh dear. But yeah, so most of the stuff about parapsychology is sort of like wishy-washy feelings, and that is not considered kosher within the scientific community. But I mean, if you can record a ghost sighting on a camera and get audio recordings, and then verify through good scientific method that it's not a hoax, then you start to build a volume of evidence, which leads people to have more faith in the belief that these things are real. But generally, it's what's called anecdotal evidence, which is basically someone told me, or I saw it late at night when I was tired. So,
I mean, we can all agree that you cannot put that next to a factual, proven calculus or something that is there physically telling you it is like that. And here's the explanation why. You're gonna tell me no because I don't believe it.
I want to add to that, right? Because while we are on the topic of measuring scientific, proof, some of the most, and I want to say, I don't know if viable is a good word, but some of the most trusted people in this study, they have multiple equipments that they use to try to record. But one of the most trusted, it's kind of similar to what we see in this film. The Ghostbuster uses I think it's the PKE meter.
Yeah.
Now, the parapsychologists and ghost hunters, they use something called the EMF, electronic field detectors. They basically, what that does, it measures the changes in electromagnetic fields that are sometimes associated with paranormal phenomena. So that would be one of the most trusted instruments that you could use. However, just the fact that is the electromagnetic fields are sometimes associated, is because it hasn't been proven that it happens every single time. So in essence, in my mind, it's until you prove that, you can't use that as a valid recording device or for experiments.
Exactly. It sounds more like an anomaly, and what I like about science is that it relies on repeated confirmed result.
Yes.
2 + 2 is always going to give you 4. It doesn't matter what. I mean, it might sound narrow-minded, but I think it's just the truth. But it's like your perception of reality doesn't change what the actuality of reality is, anyways. Because you think that the sky is red, it's not gonna really make it red in the reality.
There have been probably tens of thousands of experimental discoveries, in inverted commas, which haven't been able to be reproduced for whatever reason. And that reason might be something happened on that day that wasn't recorded, that we couldn't replicate, so it didn't happen again. One really famous example is a researcher who was attempting to recreate the genesis of life in a closed system, and using a high voltage current and solutions which were supposed to be considered similar to the primeval soup on Earth, that life came out of, according to scientific theory at this point in time. Yes, thank you. According to anecdotal evidence, it was achieved once, but could not be achieved again. So this researcher claimed that he created life in a closed system where no life existed.
In other words, hey, dude, I went to Vegas. I actually won the jackpot. Oh, really? But you just keep on attacking. Yeah, I don't have money.
Well, it's more a case of it could have been contamination. because it's very hard on Earth, where life is freaking everywhere, to actually create a sealed system with no life in it. So
Yeah.
It's quite difficult without autoclaving the shit out of it, which means basically high temperature and pressure to kill everything that's in there. And even then, viruses and stuff are quite hardy and hard to destroy through using
And
standard autoclaving techniques.
Absolutely. I mean, depending on the variation of the strand of a virus, it also requires exact specific conditions to survive. It will die too.
Yes,
So there's a
this
lot
is
of
true.
there's a lot of changing factors that are to play to really think that something is going to happen that easy.
But fungus
Which
spores are really tough as well. So
I'm scared for that one that is going to do like The Last of Us and
keeping fungus out of an
the wheat.
experiment. Keeping fungus out of experiments is very difficult. I've had experience with that before.
But I saw one experiment actually with Japanese did with fungus that is better than humans tracing circuits. They put it on top of Japan, and it basically trace all the train systems better than what they actually had, and actually did a study to show how much more time they were saving by just doing what the mushroom did.
Thank you, fungus.
So, and I would say, like, no, it's not like the fungus is alive, like, oh, I'm fully aware, but there's some kind of intelligence that doesn't communicate exactly in our five senses that might have something to offer.
Exactly. Well, I mean, science is what we understand today. That is what science is. Science never stands still. Science never becomes unchanging, because we are always discovering new things about our universe, and our universe is always changing. So there will always be new things to find. So science will never run out of things to do, because there's just so many things out there that we still don't understand or know about. And a perfect example, and I've brought this up a few times before, is when my father went to school. The smallest thing taught to school to school students was the smallest thing in the universe was an atom. And then a few years later, after he left school, they split the atom, and that changed. So now we have subatomic particles, and he was taught that that the atom was the smallest thing there was. So, I mean, science changes, and scientists have to change with it. There's no standing still. We're always moving.
If it doesn't change, it's stagnant, not progressive.
Exactly. And there's one other thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is more a tongue-in-cheek thing between researchers who've struggled with results that they couldn't repeat. There's this this pretend thing called the now, damn it, I got to get the wording right. The Journal of Unrepeatable Results.
Nice.
And that is where you publish everything that you can't get to work a second time. Because
it's a book of how not to do anything properly.
Well, without being able to repeat your experiment, it's basically a non-starter, and no journal will actually take it on board and publish it. So you have to be able to repeat your experiment multiple times to get the same result before your conclusions are acceptable. And the peer review system is very specific about that. It's got to be able to be reproduced. And if you can't reproduce, you get it to work once, and then it never works again, and you can't work out why. You're said to have published in the Journal of Unrepeatable Results, because you sure as hell ain't publishing anywhere else. Oh, tough times being a scientist sometimes.
Yeah.
It's part of the duality of all things in life, man.
And I think that the last thing I want to bring up for this segment, this is something that we alluded to, and I just want to, give a little bit more to the explanation that we already gave. In the movie, the movie features the use of a particle accelerator to open a gateway to another dimension. Particle accelerators are a realistic scientific device used in fundamental physics research. CERN's Large Hadron Collider is a famous example, but their purpose is to study subatomic particles and not to trap ghosts. Particle
I
accelerator.
mean, I feel sorry for a ghost that gets trapped in that giant 7 mile pipe, bro. He'll evaporate just going around.
7 mile. I think it's 27.
27. It's underneath. Yeah, you're right. I'm confusing it because there's several rings now created.
Yeah, because the Large Hadron is 27 kilometers, but they're actually working on a bigger one that's going to be 100 kilometers.
Oh wow.
That's gonna be the
Yeah.
biggest one so far.
Yeah.
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 So basically, this sentence is what I wanted to expand on earlier. Is a particle accelerator produces and accelerates beams of charged particles such as electrons, protons, and ions of atoms and subatomic size. They are used not only in fundamental research for an improved understanding of matter, but also in a plethora of socioeconomic applications related in health, environmental monitoring, food quality, energy, and airspace technologies, and others. So this is like the whole thing just opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to explore that, expand a little onto that. Awesome. Anything else anyone would like to add?
I just like to thank everyone for being today here. You two guys. This was an awesome episode. And one that should have been done because it's also like one of those founding blocks of what sci-fi is today. So thank you, everybody. We hope that you guys like it, and don't forget you can reach out to us if we haven't covered something you like that you would like us to cover too.
Yeah. Just remember, you can reach out to us on our Discord channel.
Clicking rubber size.
There's a QR code on screen if you're watching on YouTube.
We look cool in big TV too.
Or the Discord invite will be in the show notes for the audio version. Yeah.
And it's alright if you watch them on YouTube while you poo poo. That's fine.
Yeah, and chaos will not mind. And we also have a website. It is sciencefictionremnant.com, where you could find some of the articles that we are writing and information about our show.
We are writers.
Nice. There you go. And we have our very own mad scientists hiding behind our QR code.
And yeah, by the way, he's a real scientist, a real one, with a white robe and everything.
I've even got the salt and pepper gray hair going, so I look distinguished.
Yep. Just make sure that if he has a white robe, he's getting out of the lab, not the bath.
Actually, I just got a new job recently, so I'm going to be working for the University of Newcastle.
Nice.
Nice, man.
Congrats.
Not
Yeah,
Newcastle
when
in England, Newcastle in Australia.
When you say university, I was happy because it sounds like that's your ground there. That's the ideal place that you want it to be. So, I mean, maybe tomorrow you get a Nobel Prize or something. He
Well,
mutated a new way to kangaroo. Nobel Prize.
oh my god. And remember, if you listen to our very own show, and especially right now, you know that our very own Captain Chaos needs coffee. So
Yeah,
you-
but not coconut milk and vegan milk, okay?
so we are, if you want to help the show, we are in Buy Me a Coffee. The QR code is actually on the screen right now. And we also have a Patreon. You want to help us out with the show.
Olivios.
Oh, that's a separate thing. That's a separate thing. You're gonna have to join our Discord and ask Gio for that. Awesome. So thank you everybody again for being with us, for collaborating with us online, for giving us your thoughts, and mainly for making the show what it is right now. We, like I always say, we will never be the show that we are if it wasn't for you. And thank you so much. We really appreciate your support and your conversation. So with
See
that,
you next time.
Hasta la baby vista. He slimed me.